After my freshman year physical, I came down with a strange illness. My delicate, heart-shaped face, once my pride, suddenly swelled into a bloated, inverted triangle overnight. The next year, during my sophomore physical, another bizarre change occurred. My entire body ballooned as if pumped with air, morphing into the build of a sumo wrestler. Meanwhile, my cousin, who used to be overweight, shed all her extra pounds and became the school's beauty queen, a title that had been mine when I first started high school. I just couldn't come to terms with everything that was happening to me. I tried every possible means to end my life, but without exception, my aunt's family always showed up just in time to save me. Through their persuasion, I came to believe that my ugliness was only temporary, while securing a promising future through academic success was what truly mattered for a lifetime. After the college entrance exam physical checkup, nothing out of the ordinary happened, but on the day of the exam, all the knowledge I had accumulated over 3 years of high school vanished from my mind, leaving me with nothing but the most basic geometric principle. If two lines are parallel, their corresponding interior angles are equal. In a dazed and disoriented state, I was sent flying by a car. As my soul lingered on the brink of death, I heard my cousin's venomous voice. 3 years. I've lived in fear for 3 years, and now I finally have everything you were so proud of. My eyes snapped open, and I found myself lying on the familiar lower bunk in my dorm room. Did I get a second chance at life? I tried to spring up like a carp, but I didn't make it. My heart sank. Oh no. I quickly looked at my arm, and sure enough, the flabby flesh was dangling and swaying in the wind. I tumbled out of bed and crawled to the mirror, desperately hoping none of this was real. But when I looked into the glass, a stout, fleshy figure stared back at me. No miracle occurred. That person was undeniably me. Middle school physics taught us that plane mirrors produce virtual images that are upright and identical in size. 1. Tyshawn, are you out of your damn mind? Stop being so jumpy. Don't you know we're trying to nap? I followed the voice and saw it was Bertha, who slept in the bunk above me. The rest of my roommates were all jolted awake by Bertha's piercing shriek. They all wore annoyed expressions, but too intimidated by Bertha's fierceness to confront her, they instead shot irritated glances my way. My name is Sylvia, not Tyshawn. Stop making fun of my name. Who's making fun of you? I'm dead serious. Some may be as light as a feather, but you're as weighty as Mount Tai. You are Mount Tai. Me, last warning. Watch your mouth. Oh really, Mount Tai? Sure thing, Mount Tai, Bertha said with a mocking grin. I was already on edge, and the thought of their 3 years of taunts and insults made my blood boil in an instant. I grabbed her by the hair, yanked her down from the top bunk like a chicken, ignored her furious glare, and, smack, slapped her across the face. You called me Mount Tai. Well, today I'll show you what it means to be crushed by one. Bertha struggled desperately, but it was all in vain. In the dominant position, I slapped her repeatedly while taunting. Smack. Did your parents want you to become a prostitute since you were a child? Smack. Still guaranteeing satisfaction. Smack. From now on, your name is guaranteed satisfaction. Smack. I'll make sure you get what's coming to you. This body still feels somewhat weak. Just a dozen slaps left me completely winded. After finishing the job, I casually went to wash up as if nothing happened. When I returned, even before entering the dorm, I could hear Bertha shouting her head off, complaining that no one helped her during the fight, no one picked her up when she fell, and that she was definitely going to tell the teacher, blah blah blah. I pushed the door open, and the dorm instantly fell dead silent. Even Bertha, who had been barking the loudest, shut her trap. I'm locking my toiletries in the cabinet. No way I'm letting someone use my toothbrush as a toilet scrubber. Teacher, Bertha hit me. Boo-hoo. Look at my arm. She scratched me until it bled. I sobbed to the homeroom teacher, tears and snot streaming down my face. If you can't beat them, out-scheme them. What? Sounds like Bertha's asking to get expelled. Bertha's scraping the bottom of the class, while I'm destined for a top-tier university. How dare she disrupt my studies? Floyd flew into a rage instantly because his bonus was on the line, but the next second, as if something dawned on him, he suddenly deflated and said to me apologetically, I'll definitely reprimand Bertha. You students should be kind and get along with each other. In the future, when you enter society, you'll be each other's closest allies. Besides, the school is currently evaluating the teachers. You need to consider the bigger picture. Our homeroom teacher, Floyd, tried to console me. Considering the bigger picture really means I have to sacrifice myself for his benefit. I get it. I totally get it. I nodded immediately to show my understanding. All right, teacher, I'll follow your advice. By the way, when is our college entrance exam physical checkup? There's still a month to go. Why do you ask? Noticing my physique, Floyd suddenly realized his blunder and quickly added, these are just minor details. What really matters is acing your exams. After leaving Floyd's office, I started contemplating how to handle the situation. My cousin Tessa's words still echo in my mind. You know, the moment I got the system, I immediately chose to bind with you. I'm going to take away everything you're proud of. From Tessa's manic and triumphant words, I learned that she has a one-time exchange system, and she needs to systematically strip away my life step by step. If she makes even one misstep, she and her family will face backlash. Frankly, they're more anxious than I am, terrified that any slip-up on my part could lead to their total defeat. Wah, teacher, Sylvia hit me. Bertha, who'd been beaten to a pulp, came to complain too, but as expected. Floyd shut her down with his big picture argument. Bertha wasn't having it and threatened to take it to the dean's office. Floyd's face darkened instantly. Bertha, don't think I don't know you've been bullying Sylvia for over 2 years. The whole class can vouch for her. With your academic record, who do you think the dean will side with? Bertha immediately stopped her tantrum, knowing she was in the wrong. She had no choice but to swallow this bitter pill in silence. The moment I stepped into the classroom, Tess rushed over. Sis, why didn't you wait for me? I went to your dorm, but they said you'd already left. Tessa's sparkling eyes were clear and pure, as innocent as a newborn baby's. Who would have thought that human eyes could be so deceptive? Aren't they supposed to be the windows to the soul? And now you're telling me all I can see are the curtains. Bertha bullied me and even hit me, so I went to report her to the homeroom teacher. The other 4 roommates all shuddered in unison upon hearing my words. They must have been screaming, Bertha is innocent, in their hearts, right? How could she do this? Tess was even angrier than I was. Her fists clenched so tight they cracked. I knew she was genuinely furious. Bertha wasn't just making things difficult for me, she was practically asking for Tessa's life. Bertha walked into the classroom after me. I expected Tess to go at her, but she just gave her a calm look and didn't say or do a thing. I couldn't be bothered with their dog-eat-dog drama. My own survival was what mattered most right now. My gaze landed on Jax, that towering guy in the back row. He always ends up ahead of me during physical exams because they go by last name in alphabetical order. I nodded to myself, satisfied. Someone that built can handle 2 tubes of blood, no problem. Plus, his grades are rock bottom, consistently dead last. There's nowhere to go but up. Even swapping intellect with Tess would be a win for him. Just as I was plotting Jax's benefits, my desk mate slid a note over. Stop staring, sis, not into women, Jax. Pfft. If you hadn't been practically bleeding from the nose staring at me during orientation week, I might have actually bought that nonsense. Don't be scared, I'm really not interested in you. Besides, we both share the surname Sue. Close relatives can't marry. Sylvia. Jack stared blankly at the note, utterly bewildered as it fluttered in the wind. With a plan in mind, I settled down to focus on my studies. If the plan failed, the worst-case scenario would be skipping the physical exam, though that might raise suspicions and push my aunt's family toward even riskier actions. The 2-day break, which came every 2 weeks, had finally arrived. Just as I was waiting for the bus, my uncle's Audi A8L pulled up to the bus stop. The car window rolled down, revealing Tessa's smiling face with a faint grin. Hop in, Sylvia. It suddenly dawned on me that I occasionally rode home in my aunt's car. The reason I didn't do it every time was that my aunt's place and mine were in completely opposite directions, north and south, so it wasn't on their way at all. I felt bad about inconveniencing my uncle. According to what my soul overheard after I died, even if I took the bus home, my uncle would follow behind in his car to make sure I got home safely before driving off. Since I'd end up troubling him one way or another, I might as well just get in his car. Wow, what incredibly thoughtful bodyguard service. You hardly ever come home. Why are you cleaning? Come have some snacks I made for you. My mom looked at me with a warm smile as I tidied up, quietly proud that I'd become more responsible. It's fine, Mom, I'm just treating it as a workout. I wiped down every single item meticulously, leaving no corner untouched. After a thorough search, I was shocked to discover 8 hidden cameras in my 2-bedroom apartment. There were 3 in my bedroom alone. My parents' room had them too, and the most insane part is they even put them in the bathroom and kitchen. I smirked to myself. You've really gone to great lengths for my safety, haven't you? After my sophomore year physical exam in my previous life, My body underwent a horrifying transformation. Kids would run circles around me in the streets chanting, "Ugly freak, nobody cares, mom and dad kick you in the face." School was no better. It felt like a curse followed me everywhere. Wherever I went, people would break into hushed whispers. The boys in my class took it even further, boldly singing Joker Schwez, "Ugly monster," right in front of me. I completely lost hope for the future and considered ending my life. I tried jumping off a building, but my cousin stopped me in time. I tried drowning myself in a river, only to be rescued immediately. In despair, I locked myself at home and slit my wrists. My aunt and uncle busted through the security door with help and rushed in to save me. My uncle slapped me so hard my ears rang. Have you ever thought about what would happen to your parents if you died? What about the rest of your family? How could you be so selfish, Sylvia? Look at how chubby I used to be, but it only took me 2 years to get back in shape. If you just stick to your diet, you'll end up way prettier than me. Back then, I was filled with self-blame, but also deeply touched by my aunt's family's concern. I felt their overwhelming affection, though that very overwhelming affection twisted into seething hatred by the time they killed me. Mom, if I cut off the power at home, I bet Auntie's family would be knocking on our door in under 10 minutes. Want to take that bet? When Mom took the phone and read the WeChat message, she turned to me utterly bewildered, her eyes full of confusion. Don't speak. The house is under surveillance with cameras and listening devices. I continued typing as a warning. Mother's confusion deepened, her eyebrows knitting tightly together. Click. I shut off the circuit breaker. Bang, bang, bang. I was being too conservative with my estimate. They started banging on the door like crazy in just 3 minutes. Mom, go open the door. In the few seconds it took my mom to get to the door, the banging had already turned into kicking. The moment my mom opened the door, my uncle did a full split and ripped his pants right up the seam. Luckily, my mom heard the frantic banging and opened the door cautiously, or she would have gotten a flying kick to the face. Vivi, Kyle, what on earth are you doing? Anyone would think robbers were breaking in. Oh my gosh, sis, when we were downstairs just now, someone said there was a fire upstairs. We thought it was your place, said my aunt, still sounding a bit shaken. Are you just making things up for no reason? I tried my best to hold back an eye roll. Auntie, why is there no electricity at your place? Tess chimed in, trying to change the subject. Sylvia got a little shock while cleaning earlier. So we turned off the circuit breaker for now. Mom glanced at the sledgehammer leaning by the door and ushered the 3 of them inside. Aunt, Uncle, Tess, you're here. Please, have a seat. So, Sylvia, how's your studying coming along? Tell me all about it, Aunt said gently, patting my head. I curved my eyes into crescents and ducked my head playfully to mask the hatred in my gaze. It's just okay, not great. My teacher says I need more practice. This ornament isn't placed like that. It has to be positioned properly. I went through a lot to get this, so don't anyone touch it. As he spoke, Uncle adjusted the hidden camera into place. Mom, I don't want to go to school anymore. With my looks and figure, I won't even pass any job interviews after graduation. I'm tired of being laughed at everywhere I go. I said this to my mom during dinner, right in front of my aunt's whole family. My mom had already noticed something fishy going on, but she didn't try to stop me. Life is your own journey, she said. Just make sure you think carefully about your decisions and don't end up with regrets. My aunt's family immediately turned pale. If I dropped out of school, how would they get their hands on my blood? Without completing this step, the final exchange would be impossible. Tessa's college plans would be ruined. And worst of all, failing to complete the ritual would bring devastating consequences upon their entire family. The 3 of them, my aunt, uncle, and cousin, bolted up from the dinner table at the exact same time and shouted in unison, "No way, we won't allow it." Holy cow, watching the dining chairs topple over in unison, I suppressed a cold smirk without a trace. But going to school won't earn me any money anyway. I'd rather not go at all. This is utter nonsense. My uncle stormed over as if to slap me across the face. Lyle, you stop right there. My mother, usually gentle and refined, unleashed a powerful aura from her slender frame, shielding me as she demanded sharply, "Since when is my daughter yours to hit and scold as you please?" Oh, sis, why so angry? As if Lyle would actually lay a hand on Sylvia. Besides, he's just tough on her because he wants the best for her. It's all out of care. I don't care. I'm not going to school anymore. It's not like I can find a job or make money anyway. Sis, why are you so obsessed with money? Are you really going to throw away your future like this? Who knows? Maybe you'll slim down like me once you're in college. You'll regret it so much you won't even know where to cry. Huh, I won't just slim down. I'll probably die, I thought to myself, but on the surface, I put on a stubborn face. I'm not listening, I'm not listening. There's no way I'm going to school. Not now, not ever. My aunt and uncle exchanged a glance. We're willing to offer you a 100,000 yuan scholarship. If you score 40 points above the first-tier cutoff, the money is yours. With a look of utter indifference on my face, I was screaming inside. How stingy can you get? A construction materials company owner being this cheap. This is life-saving money we're talking about. Auntie, just drop it. Let's get back to our meal. 300,000. Just eat. Auntie, stop fooling around. 500,000. Uncle, why are you joining in too? I may be poor, but I genuinely don't care about this amount of money. 800,000. 1 million. Seriously, are you two actually bidding against each other now? When the price hit 4 million, I was finally moved. Aunt and uncle, stop boasting. There's no way you can afford that much. Uncle refused to back down and immediately checked his balance. Hee, 8 million in cash savings. My aunt and uncle didn't want to give me the money up front, but I stood my ground. No money, no school. They finally caved under my stubborn refusal to cooperate, to prevent them from taking it back. We even signed a bet agreement. If my college entrance exam score exceeds the provincial first-tier cutoff by 40 points, the other party has no right to reclaim this money. If my score falls short, I must return the full amount without any deductions. After the money arrived, I was in such high spirits that I immediately invited my aunt's family to stay for a meal, yet, they made excuses and left without even eating. They must have thought that by swapping out my intelligence and knowledge before the exam, they'd get their money back in full later. It was just parked with me temporarily to keep me focused in class and out of trouble. They probably thought it was a pretty good deal. Watching the family of 3 walk away. My mom turned back with a serious expression. She was about to say something but suddenly hesitated, picked up her phone, and started typing a message to me. Sylvia, what on earth is going on? Mom, would you believe me if I said I've died once before? I began to recount the entire story in detail through messages. Mom's fists were clenched so tightly that she didn't even notice her nails digging into her palms, under surveillance. She held it all in, no hysterics, no heart-wrenching sobs. All that remained was an increasingly icy glare. Your father donated blood to your grandfather 3 times. Your grandfather said he needed 6 donations in total, and each time he asked your father if he was willing. Buzz, my head felt like it had been struck hard by a sledgehammer. I simply couldn't reconcile the image of my kind, loving grandparents with that of malicious monsters. Yet the truth was just that brutal. So, are we all just someone else's power bank? Me, Mom. I'm starting to think you might not be my grandparents' biological child. Mom, I've had the same suspicion. Me, Mom, you should delete this chat history to avoid any unnecessary trouble. Mom, oh, my sweet daughter is back. Dad, you're home. Seeing my father's head full of gray hair at just 45, I couldn't help but bury myself in his broad chest and cry. To my surprise, I actually bumped into him so hard that he visibly took a step back. Ahem, what's going on here? Who's been bullying my sweetheart? No one's bullying me. I just miss Dad so much. Mom said she would tell Dad everything. After school started, I took a day off to go to the bank and raise my transfer limit, and I also opened a futures account while I was at it, because a fortune is waiting for me. I noticed that annoying Bertha was absent from class today. I only found out from classmates that she might have been in a car accident. I immediately felt a chill down my spine and my hair stood on end. That's the same old trick. While everyone else was studying, I was reading up on futures trading basics. Before I knew it, the day of the college entrance exam physical had arrived. When it was my turn, the nurse smiled and asked, "Are you here voluntarily for the blood draw?" Same old routine, same familiar face. Suddenly I realized this nurse looked a bit like my uncle. Nurse, why didn't you ask if he was willing? I pointed at Jax and asked her. He doesn't need to be asked. Oh, then I won't answer either. The nurse looked exasperated and asked Jax helplessly, "Are you doing this voluntarily?" Jax, "I'm doing this voluntarily, I'm volunteering too." Without making them wait, I answered sincerely. A faint smile appeared on the nurse's face as she swiftly drew 2 tubes of blood. She then labeled each one accordingly. Jax, who had been waiting for his classmate nearby, accidentally stumbled and fell onto the blood collection table. His massive frame and burly arms turned him into an instant table-clearing expert. sweeping everything off the blood draw station. The 5 or 6 classmates waiting behind me pounced to help like starving tigers, leaving the nurse completely unable to squeeze in. They hastily tidied everything up and put it back on the desk, with Jax repeatedly apologizing. Shortly after returning to the classroom, I found 2 blood collection tubes with my name on them in my pocket. The blood was still warm, and I recognized the handwriting on the labels. It was the same 2 tubes from earlier. I drank every last drop of blood from both collection tubes. No matter where I leave this thing, I just can't feel at ease about it. I even rinsed off the blood clinging to the tube wall with water and drank it. As agreed, I transferred 500 yuan to each of their accounts, with an additional 5,000 yuan promised if they kept quiet until after the college entrance exams. Yes, I bribed all of them, including Jax. I gave him 8,000 yuan, since he went ahead and drew 2 tubes of his own blood today. The other nurse who came for sampling had already been bribed with 10,000 bucks from me days earlier, since she'd provided Lena's handwriting samples along with matching specimen tubes and labels well in advance, after hundreds of attempts at imitation. I finally mastered replicating Lena's handwriting perfectly. The entire process had to be flawless. Not a single slip-up could be allowed. Villains always talk too much. In my past life, Tess stood over my corpse like a triumphant conqueror, detailing step by step how he'd pulled off the identity swap. According to her, to complete the exchange with me, she must follow 4 required steps for it to be deemed successful. Otherwise, she'll face severe backlash. Step 1. Swap appearances. Step 2. Exchange physique and health. Step 3. Trade knowledge and intellect. Step 4. End my life. Now that I've disrupted your 3rd step, I'm really curious to see what happens next. I still remember in my past life, during the National College entrance exam, I spaced out for a moment and then despairingly realized that I, who used to solve problems as easily as eating and drinking, couldn't even answer a single straightforward multiple-choice math question. Actually, Tess was quite bright in elementary school, but after starting middle school, she probably realized she'd end up swapping knowledge and IQ with me someday, so she just let her studies go. I mean, if you know deep down that what you're learning won't ever be useful to you, there's just no motivation to bother with it. I was watching the school basketball team play with a few classmates when suddenly an unpleasant voice cut through from behind. "Sylvia, are you out of your mind? Don't you know the college entrance exams are almost here?" I turned around and there was Tess. Her face, usually so pretty, now twisted with anger. She felt she had completed the 3rd step and spoke to me without any restraint, as if she wanted to vent all the grievances she had suffered over the past 3 years onto me. "Tess, are you that desperate? What does my exam result have to do with you?" "Fine. Then you can just wait to pay back the money to my family." "Oh, I almost forgot. Guess I'd better hurry up and spend it then." I opened my futures account, and all 8 million was in there from a while back. I don't know much about futures trading, but I remember in my past life, my uncle bought Reborn at its 3rd limit up, only to hit a major crash that same day. Wiped out completely, lost everything. I'll just do the opposite, just this once. What a coincidence. Right after logging in, I saw Reborn hitting its 3rd limit up. The market was all by orders today, so I went ahead and sold 600 lots, shorting it at the peak. A few days later, Tess came to me with a grim expression and said, "Give back the 4 million my dad gave you." Now, no way, we have a contract with fingerprints on it. I won't return a penny until the college entrance exam results are out. Tess scoffed. "Ha, as if a betting agreement that hasn't been notarized is completely invalid." I rolled my eyes and explained matter-of-factly, "No, no, no. As long as it doesn't violate the law or public order, it's legally binding even without notarization." As I spoke, I pulled out my phone and checked my account. The total assets had reached 19 million, close enough to my goal. Contentment is happiness. Time to sell. When our homeroom teacher Floyd passed by and saw the phone in my hand, he just shot me a glare and said, "Don't let the other students see it." I immediately stood at attention and replied, "Understood. Mission will be accomplished." With the college entrance exam just around the corner, he wouldn't dare upset the top student. "Sylvia, are you trying to ruin our family? Our cash flow is about to collapse." "Hey, don't you dare pin this on me. I had nothing to do with your financial troubles. Don't try to blame me." My inner monologue. "Well, if your dad goes bankrupt, he won't be able to afford a hitman to take me out." "Sylvia, just you wait." Tess stormed off in a rage. walking so fast she nearly twisted her ankle. Is Tess going to swap intelligence and knowledge ahead of time? Please no, I'm so scared. I'm terrified that Jax's grades might improve to second to last. My cousin probably held back and didn't make the swap, or maybe the system has some restrictions preventing her from doing it now. Because I checked with Jax to verify. Me, Jax. What's -9 plus 7, Jax? That equals -16. Perfect. Time flies like an arrow. With just 10 days left until the college entrance exams, I sent a message to my mom. Mom, don't let Dad go to work today. Just take a cab directly to the subway station and remember to bring your monthly pass. It'll be faster. Once you blend into the crowd, get off at any busy station, then take another cab to the airport. I've already booked your tickets to Northeast China. I'm not sure if anyone might be tailing Mom and Dad, but it's always better to be safe than sorry. The day of reckoning is almost here. I don't want anything to happen to my family, and I'm determined to foil everyone who's been scheming against us. The next day, Tess couldn't wait to track me down at my dorm and demanded sharply, Sylvia, where are your parents? Me, I went to Hainan for a vacation. What's up? You're lying. They would never spend that kind of money. No worries, I'm willing to spend it. That's our family's money. You can't just throw it around, if you can't pay it back. They'll force a sale of your house, then let's just auction it off. I don't really care. Tessa's face turned pale, then flushed, then ashen as she realized she'd have to wait until after the college entrance exams to get her family's money back. Grandpa is sick and needs your father to donate blood. I already told you my dad is traveling. Tell him to come back right now. He can't make it back. He's trying to get Grandpa killed. What? He's going to kill someone. Then call the police on him. Sylvia, you're going to regret this. Tess, what do you think you're doing? Who gave you permission to yell at your classmates? A familiar male voice called out from nearby. Following the sound, I saw Floyd wearing his usual all-business expression. But teacher, Sylvia started yelling at me first. Tess tried to argue. That's nonsense. I've been standing here for ages. Do you think I'm stupid? Tess fell silent immediately, though her face still showed defiance. From now until the end of the college entrance exams, you are not to come within 5 meters of Sylvia. This is the administration's decision. On what grounds? What right does the school have to restrict my personal freedom? Schools have no right to restrict your personal freedom, but they do have the right to expel students with misconduct. You people. Tess gritted her teeth with a grinding sound and turned away abruptly. Floyd gave me another round of psychological guidance. Don't let trivial things ruin my mood. On the day of the college entrance exam, 2 classmates fainted during breakfast. One was Tess, the other was Jax. This scenario is all too familiar to me. As soon as Tess woke up, she came straight to me, no longer afraid of the school's ban. She'd realized it was just Floyd abusing his authority and making a big deal out of nothing. Sylvia, I'm going to take back everything that's rightfully mine. Myself, ignoring her completely, I put on an exaggerated act of weakness. Oh dear, I'm feeling so dizzy. It made a whole crowd of onlookers sick to their stomachs. A sinister smirk curled at the corner of Tessa's lips. Ready to face the darkest moment of your life, Tess. What did you do to me? Why does my head feel so incredibly relaxed? Tessa's grin froze on her face before she snapped back to reality. Keep pretending, just wait until after the college entrance exams. I'll make you cry. After finishing the Chinese exam, I put on a troubled expression. Tess snorted with a cold laugh. She didn't think she did particularly well, but at least she completed it. After all, everyone can more or less finish the Chinese section. After finishing the math exam in the afternoon, Tess finally realized something was off. She breezed through the multiple choice and fill-in-the-blank sections in just a few minutes by guessing, but couldn't solve any of the essay questions. Just wrote solution on each. She stopped me and demanded, Sylvia, have you been slacking off lately? I looked surprised and asked, how did you know? Damn it, why, how could you have been the second in the grade before? But now you can barely pass the college entrance exam. I noticed the flesh on her face was starting to sag. Meanwhile, I prayed silently, please don't let me change back so soon. What if I can't get into the exam hall tomorrow? If I lost weight overnight, the invigilator would definitely think I was a substitute test taker. The next afternoon, I had slimmed down even more. The invigilator spent ages comparing my exam admission ticket to my face, his brow furrowed in confusion. Are you sure you're Sylvia? Yes, Professor, guaranteed authentic. With that, I handed over my household register and ID card. I had too much hormone treatment recently. right before my exam photo was taken. I've returned to normal these past few days, though still a bit skeptical. They let me in after seeing how closely my exam pass photo matched my current appearance, especially with my ID to back it up. I bet Tess is going through the same thing on her end. Huh, well, life works in mysterious ways. By the time I walked out after finishing the exam, I was back to my usual self. Even the last bit of puffiness in my face had vanished. The proctor was totally blown away, lost in thought as they watched my figure retreat into the distance. Can someone really lose that much weight in the span of a single exam? Hey, Sylvia. I turned around and saw Jax, towering and built like a tank, with arms thicker than most people's thighs. What's up, Jax? Could you give me another math problem? I facebombed. What's negative 12 plus 9? Jax's eyes lit up as he quickly replied, that's negative 3. I gave a thumbs up. Impressive. Sylvia, can you give us something more challenging? I was speechless. Two parallel lines. Jax, same side interior angles are equal. Me, beautiful. At the school gate, Tess, now reverted to her obese and unattractive self, waited like a melted wax statue of Li Kuei. Behind her stood an elderly couple, their faces so grim they seemed about to drip with gloom. The trio fixed every exiting student with murderous glares. Has that bitch Sylvia already run off? Impossible. I'm sure she never came out. Damn it, she played us all for fools. Just as the three of them were hesitating whether to keep waiting for me, they saw me rushing toward them. Hey Tess, how did the exam go? Hello Grandma and Grandpa, waiting for your grandson. Sylvia, whose blood did they draw for your checkup? Tess snapped through gritted teeth. Oh, what are you talking about, Tess? Of course they drew my own blood. Bullshit. That can't possibly be your blood, the silver-haired aunt roared, her demeanor devoid of any warmth expected of her age. What are you, a bloodhound? Granny, how would you know it's not my blood? And even if it weren't, who gave you the right to interfere? Who do you think you are? The aunt was at a complete loss for words. Give us back our 4 million. The white-haired old man grumbled indignantly. I rolled my eyes so hard it looked like I was having a seizure. Sir, who are you again? When did I ever take your money? Damn it, I'm Kyle, your aunt's husband. Now return the money. You're my aunt's husband. Then is that old lady my aunt? I gasped, covering my mouth in shock. Are you two cosplaying or something? Shut up. This is all your fault we ended up like this. Hey now, don't go making baseless accusations. I've been in school this whole time. When would I have had the chance to harm you? My classmates and teachers can vouch for me. Kyle dropped all pretense. Enough talk. You're coming with us today, or I'll make you regret it. As he spoke, Kyle's hand drifted toward the dagger at his waist, though he wouldn't dare draw it unless absolutely necessary, not with police officers stationed just nearby. I darted away to over 10 meters in just a few steps, smirking with a crooked grin. Why should I give you money, so you can hire someone to kill me, help, murder? He's got a knife. One overweight person and two 70-year-old geezers. I kept a safe distance of over 10 meters from them. They couldn't catch up with me at all. Just as expected, Tess was out of breath after only a few steps and had to stop to gasp for air. My aunt and uncle perfectly embodied the phrase, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Their running speed was like that of zombies. Looks like the bodyguards I hired long ago won't be needed after all, though they'll just have to slash the tires of that Audi A8. I'm worried they might not catch up and decide to ram me with their car. That's right up their alley. In my past life, a broken and disheartened version of me was hit by a car while crossing the street, and my soul instantly left my mangled body. This shows that I died completely and utterly. The driver fled the scene, and my aunt's family arrived at the accident site just seconds later. Tess, go get the blood now, my aunt urged anxiously. Okay, Mom. Tess quickly removed a jade pendant from around her neck. Go dip it in my blood, Mom, Dad. The final step worked. In this life, I was going to tell Tess that I knew about her exchange system, her family's shameless scheme, and that I deliberately gave her Jax's blood, but remembering that villains die from talking too much, I decisively shut my mouth. The three of them chased for a long time before belatedly realizing there was no way they could catch me, so they dashed toward their car. The engine roared to life, its aggressive growl startling me as it hit my ears. The next second, the car moved, but erratically. In no time, the tires were completely shredded, leaving only the four rims scraping against the ground. Throwing off brilliant sparks, the car was creeping toward me at a snail's pace. I bet even Shaq's grandma could have dodged it with ease. My uncle tried to swerve, but the car, missing its tires and running on rims, couldn't even turn, so it plowed through the fence and slowly sank into the water. The cops nearby, who originally came to arrest the trio, ended up jumping in to help with the rescue. I simply walked away, leaving no trace of my deeds or reputation. At the police station, the three of them falsely accused me of scamming them and even trying to harm them, which led to an officer calling and asking me to come in. I knew that if I went, my aunt's family would stop at nothing to see me dead, so I told them I'd come as soon as possible to explain, but only if those three weren't present. It was already midnight, and I still hadn't gone, planning to wait until daybreak. Unexpectedly, I received a call from the police station first. 3 people had died tragically there, bleeding from all 7 orifices for unknown reasons. I went to the police station and showed the officers the recorded evidence and the bed agreement, which finally proved my innocence. From the officer, I learned that the 3 of them had intended to search the world for me, but their bodies were battered, bruised, and waterlogged. They simply couldn't go on. The despair of waiting helplessly for death must be unbearable. I don't regret not witnessing their despair firsthand. I only wish to erase them from my memory forever. A private investigator informed me that my grandmother was also found dead at home the day after I finished my college entrance exams. At the same time, a nurse at the People's Hospital died suddenly and inexplicably. A few days later, Grandpa also passed away, bleeding from all orifices with his body completely decomposed. He had called me many times before that, but I didn't answer a single one. Later, my mom mentioned that she had actually voluntarily donated blood for Grandma 5 times already. That system of Tessa's was probably set up with Grandma's help. If it fails, everyone involved will face the consequences. In this lifetime, our family has finally broken free from being treated as someone's emotional support battery. My college entrance exam scores are out. I scored 70 points above the first-year cutoff. Which university should I choose? Story 2. July's sweltering heat was unbearable, causing irritability to soar. As I scrolled through my phone at home, a notification suddenly popped up on a social platform that piqued my interest. Returned from a trip to Country M with my mother and have been feeling unwell ever since. Could it be that I'm not adapting well to the new environment? The comments section was bustling with various theories. Some joked that the grass is always greener on the other side. Others shared similar symptoms, and a few even speculated it was due to nuclear waste contamination. However, as an aficionado of apocalyptic literature, I sensed a hint of danger. Country M. It seemed that almost every pandemic and apocalyptic narratives originated from there. I began to search across various platforms for any mentions of illnesses related to Country M. Since July, both locals and visitors returning from Country M had progressively exhibited symptoms like itchy eyes, redness, and involuntary facial muscle spasms. My mind raced. Could this be a widespread contagious disease? The symptoms of red eyes and facial twitching, weren't they eerily similar to those of a zombie? If it were zombies, how would the infection spread? No one mentioned being bitten. Could it be transmitted through blood? But that wouldn't account for such a widespread occurrence. If it were airborne, then probably no one would be spared. I shared my thoughts with my parents, who chuckled at my theories before going about their business. Only my 3rd-grade sister listened with keen interest. After all, I had a reputation for being a bit neurotic about these things, having previously speculated about the end of the world on several occasions. In the end, nothing had happened. 2 years ago, I had even convinced my parents to build a sturdy 2-story house back in our hometown, complete with red bricks and steel plates. And we dug a basement connected to the house, 2 meters underground, though nothing had happened then. It was the perfect refuge. Reflecting on this, I decided to remain calm. For now, if it really was a virus, it probably originated from Country M. I planned to keep an eye on developments there and stock up on essential items at a low cost. This way, even if there was no outbreak, the financial loss would be minimal. If an outbreak did occur, our first choice would definitely be the house back home. Not only were the walls made of double-layered red bricks and steel plates, but the outer walls also stood 2 meters high, reinforced with double-layer steel and bricks. A vehicle wouldn't be able to break through with just a couple of hits. At the time, the villagers had mocked my dad, joking that his education had made him foolish for building such high walls that blocked out the light. My dad just scratched his head and chuckled sheepishly. The rooftop solar panels were connected to 3 3000V batteries. We also covered the well in the courtyard with a well house to prevent contamination. Most importantly, I personally designed the basement. My idea was that even if someone breached the perimeter wall, they couldn't get inside the house, and if they did get inside, we would retreat to the basement. During this time, we would defend while they attacked, giving us numerous opportunities to counterattack. Thus, I treated the basement as the last resort. Using the thickest steel available and fitting the highest quality doors at both entrances, buried 2 meters underground, the entrance was cleverly hidden behind a panel in the kitchen cabinet on the second floor, with the passage concealed within the wall. Even if someone knew about the basement, they couldn't find the entrance. Who would guess it was on the second floor? At the time, the basement was custom-made by a factory and we secretly transported and installed it ourselves at night. To prevent the villagers from seeing us install the steel plates inside the house, we surrounded the construction site with green building nets, claiming we were preventing dust and falling bricks. Thus, besides our family, no one knew about the basement. We installed a simple ventilation system that could be easily repaired if the modern air systems failed. The ventilation duct led to a faux air conditioning vent inside the house, ensuring efficient air circulation. Our family home was located on the edge of the village, with fields on one side, providing a strategic position in case of emergencies. Located in a remote area, we feared unwelcome attention, so we kept the exterior of the house deliberately plain. It was a 2-story building with plain concrete walls, looking quite unremarkable and seemingly not worth more than 100,000 yuan. In our village, most homes were single-story, so we specifically added an attic to the second floor. The attic's ceiling was only 1.8 meters high, and we installed a ring of windows at the height of 1.3 meters. This allowed us to observe the outside without easily being spotted. Therefore, the priority was to enhance the security and concealment of our small building. I sketched and revised plans on paper. Eventually, I decided to purchase soundproofing materials and blackout curtains to prevent anyone from noticing activity in our home, along with some self-defense weapons. In a post-apocalyptic world, human nature is the most frightening thing. Once decided, I immediately went to the building materials market to buy the soundproofing materials and blackout curtains, and delivered them to my family home. Before I could install them, I hurried to the steel market. I divided the blueprint of a crossbow I had studied into 3 parts and handed them to 3 different craftsmen. Given its illegality, I certainly didn't want to spend the apocalypse in detention. I also bought 10 fire axes and 3 unsharpened tang swords. The next day, I received all parts for the 3 crossbows, and the 500 arrows I ordered online also arrived. I assembled everything noisily back at the family home. Each crossbow was tested, within 100 meters. 6 thick wooden boards were shattered into pieces, not to mention what they could do to a person. Afterward, I returned home and kept an eye on news from country while continuing to make a list of items we needed. On the morning of the 3rd day, just after I woke up and was refreshing the news skillfully, a headline caught my eye, shockingly reporting a case of cannibalism by a man in country. I sat up abruptly and closely read the news. In a city in country, a man had attacked a pedestrian and bitten a police officer before being shot dead on the spot. The pedestrian and injured officer were being treated at a hospital. The video was heavily censored, but I already had my suspicions. Scrolling down, I saw someone selling an uncensored version of the video. I quickly contacted them and made the purchase. As I suspected, the video was clear. The man was covered in scratch-induced sores, his eyes blood red and muscles twitching. His symptoms were similar to those previously reported as unwell, only more severe. I snapped my phone shut. While dressing, I calculated that the first cases of illness in country appeared about a week ago. There hadn't been a widespread outbreak yet. This man must have been one of the earlier cases, for days had passed since people in our country began asking for help, meaning I had 3 more days. After 3 days, even if international travel was banned and those bitten in country were quarantined, those already showing symptoms in our country could mutate. I didn't have time to explain to my parents. I rushed to buy essential medications. If these were to run out, surviving the apocalypse would be impossible. I cleared out the nearest 5 pharmacies, grabbing everything from adult to children's medicines, for colds, fevers, diarrhea, disinfectants, and more. Fortunately, not many had realized the situation yet, and the supplies were plentiful. I practically emptied the pharmacies, and I wasn't worried about being recognized since my hometown was at least a half-hour drive away. They couldn't find me. I knew my parents' bank card PIN and paid directly with their card. Soon after, my parents called me. "What are you buying now?" "Spending over 7,000. I rushed into the car and urgently explained, "Mom and Dad, I'm not messing around this time. I can guarantee the apocalypse is really coming." Dad, call our uncle in S country. Mom, call my uncle. Just get a 3-day leave from my sister. My grandparents had passed away years ago. My father has only one older brother on his side. My maternal grandparents live with my uncle's family, and I hesitated a bit because my uncle is rather lazy and I feared he might become a threat to our family in the future. But thinking of my kind grandparents, I decided to inform my uncle's family so they could start preparing supplies immediately. I'm going to buy rice, flour, and oil now. Dad, you go buy live animals like chickens, ducks, and rabbits. Mom, you go buy daily necessities. Hurry, I said. I had already sorted out a list of things to buy and sent it to my parents, whether they believed it or not. I went to buy the most important items first, the rice and oil. I rented a small van and drove it back myself. I couldn't let anyone know about my shelter to avoid becoming a target in the future. I chose a large grain and oil store 20 kilometers away. As buying large quantities of food is best done discreetly, I entered the shop as if everything was normal. I bought 50 bags of medium gluten flour, 30 bags of high gluten flour, 20 bags of low gluten flour, 50 bags of rice, 60 barrels of oil, various kinds of rice and beans, 200 bundles of dry noodles, and 5 boxes of noodle sauces. I also bought 2 boxes of sugar, 5 boxes of soy sauce, 4 large barrels of vinegar, 2 boxes of oyster sauce, various sauce packets, and various spices, picking up 30 portions of each seasoning. The small truck was loaded full. When paying, the shop owner almost split his face with a grin, asking why I was buying so much. I told him we were opening a restaurant and needed supplies for a wedding banquet. I drove the truck directly to the courtyard of my old home. Without having time to unload, I rode a tricycle to the neighboring town to buy seeds. Since I hadn't lived here since I was young, nobody recognized me, so I just wore a mask. At the seed base in the neighboring town, I bought 70 packets each of Shanghai green, spinach, and radish seeds, among other vegetables. I also bought 30 each of tomato, blueberry, strawberry, and cucumber seedlings. I got 5 bags of fertilizer, as we could eventually be self-sufficient, and 20 bottles of various pesticides. The tricycle was fully loaded again. Although buying seeds in the town wouldn't raise suspicions, I still circled the town before heading onto the highway to make sure no one was following me, then quietly took back roads home. As I neared home, something felt off. From a distance, I saw the gate to our home was open, which startled me. I had made sure to lock the gate before leaving because I was worried about the safety of the supplies. Had someone seen me moving the supplies? Was I being followed by someone from the village or the grain store? I parked the vehicle and tiptoed to the door, my heart pounding. Just as I poked my head in to look, someone grabbed my collar and pulled me inside. "What are you sneaking around for, you little rascal?" It was a familiar voice. "Mom." I looked up to see my parents drenched in sweat, about half of the food from the truck already moved, and my sister sitting nearby eating watermelon. "Come and help," my mom said in a hushed tone. I hurriedly rode the tricycle in and locked the gate. We moved everything inside together, and by evening we were done. I looked around at the chickens, ducks, fish, rabbits, and various daily necessities inside our house, all matching the list I had made. I was touched. "I didn't expect you to actually believe me," I said to my parents. "Moved? Why wouldn't we, silly child? You know, if there's no apocalypse, all I lose is money." "But you could lose your life," my dad joked. At first, we didn't believe it, but then look at this. My mom handed me her phone. I saw that the hot search from the morning had moved into the top 5, with updates: inside a hospital, a bitten bystander and an injured police officer, struggling in the operating room. His body developed ulcerated erythema and his eyes turned red. Then, in an almost inhuman manner, he broke free from his restraints and lunged at his doctor. Now, the city of F in country M is in complete chaos, totally out of control, and the nation has already locked down the airports and ports. I shook my head. It can't be stopped. There are carriers within the country too, and they will mutate within 3 days. My mother was shocked and wanted to call the government, but my father and I stopped her. "I'm no prophet, but what I can think of, the state can certainly also consider. Now we can only slow the spread. We're not fully prepared with supplies yet. If we made the call, not only could we waste time if we're suspected or taken in for questioning, but the little we have hidden could also be discovered. First, we must ensure our own survival." Then we started to check and organize our supplies. 70 bottles each of shampoo and shower gel, 20 bottles each of facial cleanser, conditioner, and body lotion, 50 toothbrushes and toothpaste, and 5 boxes of wet wipes, soap. The king in times of apocalypse, 1 bar can clean the whole body, so we bought 5 large boxes, 20 boxes of sanitary pads and laundry detergent. What about the toilet paper, Mom? Mom swiftly opened a door, revealing an entire bedroom filled with toilet paper. Proudly, she said, this essential item, which is used up quickly, of course. We need to stockpile a lot. I gave her a thumbs up in admiration. Dad bought 10 chickens, ducks, fish, and rabbits each, 20 carp, 3 large cages, and a large fish tank, and 20 bags of feed for the chickens, ducks, and fish. We need to put these items in the house and cover them with soundproof foam. Chickens and ducks make noise, and when other people run out of food, wouldn't they get green-eyed upon hearing the chickens? Also, this fish tank can't hold 20 carp. We might need to dig a small pond to split some off. We'll handle this later. Right now, the main thing is that the situation is widely known. And with the official closure of airports and ports, it's essentially an acknowledgement that many people have realized what's happening and probably started hoarding supplies. My parents and I quickly reviewed what was still needed, and after making a list, it was already midnight. I told them to rest immediately, preparing to buy supplies as soon as day broke. I stayed awake all night, thinking of countless possibilities and countermeasures. Just 2 days left. And I'm not exactly precise about the timing. If the outbreak happens earlier, we couldn't return if we were caught outside. Would my uncle seriously stockpile and fortify? Would he come to steal our supplies? Is there anything else we forgot to buy? Can my sister grow up healthy in this environment? After dawn, we drove a truck to make purchases, fearing we couldn't manage alone. As expected, the streets were swarming with people frantically buying supplies. Fortunately, most were stockpiling staples like rice and oil, which we had already purchased. We went to a warehouse store and cleared out all the canned goods, compressed biscuits, and instant noodles. We bought 10 boxes of disinfectant. After all, in an apocalypse, immunity won't be strong, and hygiene is still important. We also bought 50 sets each of towels, bath towels, underwear, and comfortable cotton clothes. People around us looked at us mockingly, whispering among themselves. We also bought sausages, cured meats, frozen chicken, and duck, and some fresh meat and vegetables, which were the hardest to procure. Most people thought it would be like the mask era, just stay home and lock down for a while, so the stalls selling meat and vegetables were crowded. Luckily, with 20 years of shopping experience, Mom managed to grab half a pig and a bunch of fresh vegetables. Gas could be cut off at any time, and cooking smoke is too conspicuous, so we also bought gas cylinders, cassette stoves, and alcohol blocks at the hardware store. We also bought barbed wire, to prevent climbing, to be installed on the fences. We also purchased tools such as electric drills and chainsaws, since the sound of a chainsaw alone could make anyone think twice. We bought 3 water purifiers and 3 large water storage tanks, fearing that an apocalypse might contaminate the groundwater. We also got a treadmill and other exercise equipment. We stocked up on Dad's cigarettes and alcohol, my sister's books and exam papers, and Mom's skincare products. We went home to grab thick clothes, cotton quilts, and sturdy shoes, as some apocalyptic scenarios could usher in an ice age. Then, we made a trip to the hospital where we met with Dad's good friend, who provided us with a bunch of vitamins and calcium supplements to prevent potential nutritional deficiencies later on. We also picked up several bottles of sleeping pills. I've prepared supplies for about 10 years. If humanity hasn't begun to recover by then, it's likely it never will. If we end up being the last people on Earth, or if we can't withstand the zombies, I hope we can pass away peacefully in our sleep. We spent the entire day rushing around, and by evening, the whole family was too exhausted to continue. As night fell, my unease grew, fearing an early outbreak of zombies. Still, we decided to take a longer route home since our large haul of supplies was quite conspicuous today. Indeed, we noticed a black Jeep following us. Dad mentioned that these guys had been tailing us since we left the farmer's market and we couldn't shake them off. Determined, I had Dad drive onto a less populated road. Once sure there were no people or cameras around, I had him slow down as the car crept closer. I retrieved a crossbow from under the seat, surprising my parents, but they didn't stop me. Mom quietly covered my sister's eyes. As expected, the car sped up, trying to force us to stop. I waited for the right moment and fired. The arrow, like a slicing blade, whizzed through the air and punctured their tire. The car immediately veered off, crashing into a muddy ditch. 4 people emerged from the vehicle. How do I know? They came after us with steel pipes. I urged Dad to speed away from this troubled spot, and as I did, I shot another arrow that shattered their windshield. My heart pounded and my hand trembled from the recoil. I had to do this for my family's safety. They probably had a spare tire, so I shattered their windshield to ensure that even if they replaced the tire, the broken windshield would prevent them from driving fast enough to catch us. We looped around the highway a few times before taking a back road home. By the time we got there, it was completely dark. I took one last look at the quiet village before slowly closing the gate, possibly for the last time in such peace. I locked the gate, went inside, and we didn't dare turn on the lights. I had Mom and my sister go to sleep first while Dad and I set up blackout curtains. After switching on the lights, I ran outside to make sure no light was leaking. Then I came back in to continue installing soundproofing foam. Mom organized and inventoried our supplies. We designated the second floor as our living area, stored half our supplies on the first floor, and the rest in the basement. We installed an iron door between the first and second floors so that if anyone got in, we could retreat to the basement while they were busy with the door. After setting up the blackout curtains and soundproofing foam, it was late at night. Under the cover of darkness, Dad installed barbed wire on the perimeter walls. I've been up for almost 2 nights straight. Now that safety is assured, I finally relax after being tense for several days. I fell asleep while downloading movies and TV shows to my hard drive. In the morning, I was woken up by my mom, still groggy and with my eyes barely open. She thrust her phone in front of me. "Look, it's chaos, real chaos," she said, her voice trembling with panic. I quickly grabbed the phone to look. It was a video shot from a high-rise building, showing zombies swarming madly in the streets, chasing and biting people. Cars crashed into each other, spewing thick black smoke. A person who had just crawled out of a car was torn into pieces by a zombie that charged at him. As I scrolled down, every video depicted scenes akin to hell on earth. I watched intently as those bitten mutated within just 30 to 40 seconds, their bodies covered in blue veins and slowly decomposing. Trembling, I asked my mom, "Do we have those things here now?" Mom shook her head. "Not in the village, but I heard they are in the city, and they have sealed off our village." I got out of bed and reconfirmed with my parents that we hadn't told anyone we had returned to our hometown and stored food. With their affirmation, my heart settled a bit. Taking advantage of the still available internet, I spent the whole day downloading music, novels, TV shows, movies, and various guides on living, recipes, and first aid books. I printed 2 copies of the recipes, living guides, and first aid books, and other textual knowledge, just in case there's no power later, or in continuous rainy weather when the solar panels might not generate electricity, and I couldn't access this information. I kept 1 copy for use and stored the other in the basement to prevent loss or damage. Then I continued organizing supplies with my parents. We didn't install surveillance because, in an apocalyptic scenario, it wouldn't be long before the internet went down. At that time, not only would it be useless, but the camera's turning head or the red light might reveal that our house had power. Suddenly, a roaring noise caught my attention, and I hurriedly ran up to the attic to look. From a distance, I saw 3 people on motorcycles turning into the first house at the entrance of the village. I frowned and went down to ask my parents, "Isn't the village sealed?" "I just saw several people on motorcycles entering the first house at the entrance." "That's the village chief's house, probably his son and his dubious friends," my dad said. Mom added, "Who would stop the village chief's son? His son is not good news. How did he come back? He probably couldn't stay in the city any longer. Now, we just hope he doesn't attract zombies here or get bitten," I said, astounded. Most of the village residents are elderly. If zombies come, they can only hide indoors without any means to fight. "Dad, did your uncle store any food?" After my grandparents died, various relatives eyeing our house and land wanted to seize them since we were not around. In the end, only Dad's uncle stood up against everyone and saved our old house. He is Dad's last concern in this village. Dad smirked. "When you asked me to buy supplies, I called him and suggested he stockpile food as if he were going into the grain trade. I asked him to gather a courtyard full of food. I also called his son, telling him to come back and help me store the grain. They raise chickens and pigs, and they have vegetables in the yard. As long as they have food, that old man can stay indoors for 2 years." I nodded. "That's good, then we just need to take care of ourselves." Online, there were cries for help everywhere. and most parts of the country had fallen. Only the sparsely populated Northwest still wasn't so severely affected. However, people had already started fleeing there, and it probably wouldn't last much longer. The next morning, a scream shattered the peace of the village. I opened my eyes from sleep and scrambled up to the attic to observe. I saw chaos at the doorstep of the village chief's house. One of the young men who had been riding a motorcycle had turned into a zombie and was now fiercely biting an old lady's neck. Several more zombies were approaching from a distance. It seems that the old lady was attracted here by some noise while wandering nearby, when people around her tried to intervene. Seeing the zombies approaching, they immediately kicked both the old lady and the zombies out and shut the door. This old lady was one of those in the village who didn't believe in superstitions and spent the whole day yesterday chatting at the entrance of the village. When she got heated up, I could hear her yelling and cursing from my home, calling those hiding indoors cowards. Witnessing this bloody scene, the remaining elderly men and women scattered in all directions. Those who were close to home and could run fast were fine, but those who were slow and far from home were quickly caught and knocked down by the zombies. One old lady had almost made it inside her home, when her partner didn't catch up. She ran back to pull him along, but both were overwhelmed by the frenzied zombies. The zombies burst through the doors that were not securely shut, and soon, screams from women could be heard. Cries of despair rose from all around, and from behind several securely closed doors came muffled sobs. In just a few minutes, several villagers were dead, and more than a dozen had turned into zombies, swallowing hard. Even though I had mentally prepared myself, witnessing such a gory scene still sent shivers down my spine. My parents appeared beside me at some point. I shook my head and muttered softly, "It has begun." As I expected, the internet was cut off on the third day, probably due to damaged lines. I started giving daily lessons to my family at home. Topics included, the first to die in chaos are the benevolent, and letting others know we have food will lead to a tragic end. When I discussed the part about bloodshed eroding humanity, my mother would cover my sister's ears. We lived cautiously, like mice in a granary, trying our best to keep our existence hidden from others. The fish density in our pond was too high, and 2 had already died. We dug a 2-meter pond in the courtyard, lined it with cement, and planned to let it dry before transferring half of the fish into it. The soil we dug out was just right for the vegetable garden. With the high summer temperatures and ample sunlight, it sprouted within 2 days. We planned to dig a dry toilet when it got cooler, even though we had well water and weren't worried about losing our water supply. But the village's septic tank hadn't been cleaned for a long time and would eventually fill up. Before that happened, we neatly stacked and compressed non-decomposable trash like plastic bags in the yard. We shredded perishable waste and flushed it down the toilet. The zombies in the village were increasing, and I noticed they had both hearing and photosensitivity. They moved slower when the sun was out, but their movements quickened at night, possibly due to the temperature. After discussing, we decided that I would keep watch at night since these creatures were too active then. Last night, an old man's loud snoring attracted a group of zombies that smashed through his window. Screams echoed through the silent village. Not one of the family of 5 survived. That night, I got up and found the last bit of soundproofing foam, adding another layer in the chicken and duck coop. So, besides me keeping watch, we ceased all nighttime activities, focusing all our tasks during the day. 2 days later, I woke up in the afternoon to prepare for the night watch. Walking into the living room, I saw my parents sitting silently, their faces ashen. Approaching them, I noticed my mother's hands trembling non-stop. I quickly asked what was wrong, but was met with silence. After a long pause, my father finally said, "There's been a murder." Stunned, I listened as he continued, "The village heads, 2 good-for-nothings, climbed over the wall to their neighbor's house to demand food. When they were refused, they killed the elderly couple." I took a deep breath, feeling a lump in my throat, and joined the endless silence. Suddenly, my mother choked up. They only got a small bag of food. What if they continue to come out and kill after it's gone? A harsh reality indeed. If we finish this food, who will be next? When will it be our turn? We never thought they would be completely beastly. A scream startled us, and we looked up sharply, exchanging glances before quickly running up to the attic. They had broken into another neighbor's house. In that house, there was only a newly married young bride and her mother-in-law at home. Her husband was working away, or perhaps he had already died. All we saw was the old lady lying in a pool of blood in the courtyard. While cries and pleas for mercy came from the young bride inside the house, the zombies outside, hearing the noise, were madly swarming at the door. My mother couldn't stand it and kept shouting, "Beasts, beasts!" Tears welled up in my eyes. I ran downstairs to grab 2 crossbows, handing one to my dad. I said, "I might not shoot accurately, but let's each take one and try to shoot them down as they climb over the wall." Dad hesitated, worried about revealing our position. "Dad, this time it's them. But what about next time? If we don't get rid of these creatures, it'll be our turn sooner or later." Dad's eyes gradually firmed up, and he took the crossbow. Half an hour later, as they carried 2 bags of food out, my dad and I prepared to aim with our crossbows. Just as they climbed onto the wall, Dad, quick as a flash, shot an arrow. The 2 screamed and fell off the wall motionless. 2 of them. I hadn't even fired my arrow yet. How did the other one die? I quickly pushed Dad down. Crouching in the corner of the wall, my heart pounding, someone else had weapons. Had they discovered us? "You are the most beautiful cloud in my sky." Suddenly, a loud burst of music played, and the zombies roared towards the sound. I told Dad to stay put and slowly moved toward the window on that side. I had just poked my head out to see what was happening when I heard the sound of machine guns firing, gunfire. I saw a group of people in camouflage uniforms firing at the zombies attracted by the speakers. 2 camouflage vehicles also bore the 5-starred red flag. I was about to get excited, but seeing the blood-stained wall, my heart cooled considerably. Soldiers, how could they kill people indiscriminately? Looking more closely, a chill ran down my spine. The vehicle looked just like the Jeep that had chased us before. It was just repainted with camouflage. And the tire that had been shot out was clearly a spare. Looking at these people, 2 of them were the ones who had chased us with iron pipes. I observed the unevenly aged group, which even included women sleeping in the vehicle. After killing the zombies, they began calling around the village, "Folks, we are from the People's Republic of China's Self-Defense Force. The zombies have been killed, and we've surrounded the village with barbed wire. Everyone can come out now." Alarms went off in my mind. They were trying to lure people out for a head count. I quickly had Dad write a note to warn our second uncle's family not to come out, which I shot over with the crossbow. Then I heard a click, the sound of the inner door opening. Dad and I exchanged glances. Mom had opened the door. She had just been shocked, and hearing the name of the People's Republic of China, she became irrational. Desperate for help, realizing the danger, I rushed downstairs, using all my strength to leap down the last steps and race to the door. At the door, Mom was using keys to unlock the gate. With my sister by her side, I didn't dare shout, fearing the people outside would hear, so I rushed over as fast as I could. Fortunately, at the last moment, I grabbed Mom's hand as she pushed the door, covering her mouth and signaling her to be silent, dragging her and my sister quickly back inside. I then returned to the main gate, silently locked it, and went back. Mom's eyes were swollen as she said, "My daughter, did you hear that? The military is here to rescue us. Why did you pull me back inside?" One asked. "Mom, did you hear? It's the military." Another replied, "The military." A flicker of confusion crossed the mother's face before she said it with determination. "Whatever branch they are, as long as they are here to rescue us, that's what matters." As she was about to head outside again, I quickly pulled her to the window and pointed to the Jeep and the man chasing us with a steel pipe. Her face went pale instantly, and she looked at me helplessly. "My dear, I almost made a terrible mistake," she sobbed. The apocalyptic life filled with constant fear and the darkness of human nature had started to take a toll on her mentally. I comforted her, helped her to the bed, and gently patted her back, just like she used to do when I was a child, to help me sleep. Then I asked my sister to stay with Mom while I hurriedly went up to the attic. Seeing me, my father looked worried. "What's wrong with your mom?" I heard her crying. "It's okay now. She just couldn't take it anymore and has gone to sleep," I reassured him. "What's going on outside?" I asked my father. He explained that the group outside was tallying people and resources, saying the government would distribute supplies later. "Did Uncle see the note?" Dad nodded. "They didn't go out. I hit it well when I was shooting arrows. They don't know it was me." I felt somewhat relieved looking at Dad. My teachings against blind faith had paid off. I asked him to go down and stay with Mom while I watched from above. I only peeked through with my eyes from the window as they pretentiously handed out some dry rations to each household. The village leaders were explaining the population distribution to them, from a distance. I saw someone pointing at our house. I quickly hid further back, guessing they were asking whether anyone was living there or something similar. Suddenly, I remembered something we had forgotten. The arrow shot by Dad was still in the body of the village chief's son. if the villagers went to collect the body, they'd surely see it. Then, looking at the direction and angle from which the arrow was shot, it would be hard not to suspect our house. I hurried to the wall from where the arrow was shot. The body was already gone, their people were there, gesturing. Suddenly, one of them seemed to sense something and turned around. I met his fierce, suspicious eyes and quickly sat down, unsure if he had seen me. The earlier pointing at our house probably meant they were already suspicious of us. At that moment, I truly understood what terror felt like. My heart raced uncontrollably, and I dared not look out anymore, only using a mirror to observe from below. They discussed for a while, then dispersed to continue their tallying, but I couldn't calm down for a long time. They might leave us be for now, perhaps wary of our arrows and high fences, or maybe they're waiting for us to lower our guard before they strike. Once the food outside runs out, it will be our turn. Doing nothing now is a sure path to death. From that day on, our family took turns keeping watch in the attic, preparing intensely. We moved all the movable supplies into the basement. And I practiced shooting with my parents. 3 days later, the leader of the group knocked on our door. He was about 30, short but with a face crisscrossed with scars and arms covered in tattoos. Despite the smile on his face, his expression was fiercely cunning. I pushed my sister into the supply-filled basement, instructing her not to come out for anything. We had taught her how to open cans. If we couldn't make it back in time, she could survive on her own for a while. Mom had prepared hot oil mixed with sugar in the kitchen. If they broke in, this concoction could be thrown at them. The scalding temperature could incapacitate them at best, or at worst, be lethal. The man leading the group tried to persuade us with a reassuring tone after knocking on the door to no avail. Don't be afraid. We aren't bad people. Look at our uniforms. We are soldiers. Open the door. We are here to bring you supplies. However, from the attic, I could clearly see that their men were already hiding at the base of the surrounding wall, ready to climb over at any moment. Seeing that we didn't respond, the man gradually lost his patience, and his words became increasingly harsh until he finally burst out cursing. You ignore a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Come on, break in. They rushed forward, but our home's perimeter wall was equipped with anti-climb netting, covered with dense, sharp blades. They couldn't get a grip. Amidst the cursing, 3 ladders were placed against the wall, and they climbed up excitedly. I watched as the upper bodies of 3 men gradually appeared over the wall, smug smiles on their faces. They were greeted by my father in the yard, armed with a high-pressure water gun. With a sudden noise, the water gun was turned on, and a strong jet of water knocked down the 3 men and their ladders, leaving them howling in pain. I could hear someone shouting, my leg is broken." More curses followed. Then, the leader shouted, and all the noise outside stopped. The man and a few others gestured and discussed among themselves, then with a forced smile shouted at us, "If you don't want to come out, we won't force you. If you run out of food, you can come out and get some from us." After saying this, he led his group away in a scattered fashion, but we dared not relax. We stayed tense and vigilant for nearly 2 hours, seeing no further movement. My parents finally let my sister out of the basement. Our family sat in the attic discussing the situation. "What do you think their intentions are? Do you think they will leave us alone?" my mother asked. "Impossible," my father and I said in unison. "These people must have some reservations or are up to no good. Are they wary of the villagers, or the zombies, or perhaps they plan to attack us at night?" In the end, we decided to keep one person on watch while the others slept on the second floor. With the stairway door locked, even if they managed to sneak in without us noticing, we could still retreat to the basement in time. I was highly alert throughout the night, pacing back and forth in the attic, vigilant of every little noise. The night passed without incident, but my unease only grew. My mother brought me breakfast in the morning while I was eating. With a sharp clang, an annoying sound of tuning was followed by the leader's voice through a loudspeaker. "Villagers, the national relief food has arrived. Come to the village chief's house to collect it. Each household should send 1 person per family member. First come first served." Distributing food. Could it be that yesterday's attack on us raised suspicions among the villagers? So today they are distributing food to appease them, I wondered to myself, unsure of their motives. Hearing the announcement, the villagers quickly scrambled towards the village chief's house, afraid of missing out on the food. After half an hour, the area in front of the village chief's house was crowded with people. Next to it was a fence separating them from the zombies. Although everyone tried to keep quiet, the rustling footsteps and murmurs still attracted many zombies to the spot. They pressed against the fence, pushing forward vigorously. After the self-defense force members counted the people, they pulled up another fence behind the villagers. "Why pull up a fence, sir?" asked a dark-skinned uncle. "To prevent anyone from taking extra one out after taking their share," replied a chubby man with a rosy face. Smiling, everyone suddenly understood and praised the idea as a good one. Once the fence was secured, the chubby man walked towards the original fence gate. I suddenly realized something, my eyes widened, but before I could react, with a loud bang, the chubby man, still smiling, shot off the lock of the fence. The zombies outside, already eager, surged towards the sound of the gun. The villagers were caught off guard and tried to run back, cursing as they went, but the fences erected by the self-defense forces blocked their escape. Screams, cries, and curses merged into a chaotic uproar. A woman quickly lifted her child up to climb over the fence. Just as the little boy grasped the wire mesh, he was spotted by a member of the self-defense forces who immediately shot at him. The mother, momentarily stunned, pulled her child down, but it was too late. The bullet had already pierced through the boy's chest. She herself was hit in the shoulder and looked at her child bleeding profusely in her arms, her eyes filled with rage and her body trembling. She then let out a heart-wrenching scream, like a mourning cuckoo, and clung to the fence with all her might, yelling at them, "You will not die a good death." She was then overwhelmed by zombies who began to savagely bite her. Within just 10 minutes, the remaining 50 or so villagers were all gruesomely mutilated and turned into zombies one by one. The self-defense forces just watched as if it were a show, observing them struggle and scream until they turned into monsters, leaving with a scoff, "A bunch of fools." Though I didn't know the villagers personally, the sight of this hellish scene made me dizzy, and I ran to the bathroom to vomit uncontrollably. My parents had already heard the commotion and watched everything from the second-floor window. They hung their heads in silence, and our house fell into a death-like stillness. 10 minutes later, my mother was the first to recover. She took out the family's sharpened katana and fire axe and began to hone them again. "Everyone, get up. They've got their supplies, and the nuisances are dealt with. We're next." Without saying a word, I wiped my mouth and started moving bundles of arrows to the attic. The rumbling sound of an engine grew closer, and I looked out the window to see a jeep pulling up right in front of our house. A man got out, gun in hand, and fired several shots at the front door lock. Our house had been built like a bunker, with explosion-proof doors, so the bullets were hardly effective. Seeing the door unscathed, the man threw his gun to the ground, cursed vehemently, and ordered the jeep to reverse. The jeep backed up about 50 meters, then accelerated towards the door. A loud bang followed, and black smoke billowed from the door. Once the smoke cleared, the door remained intact, causing the attackers to curse in frustration. Seeing they couldn't get in, I continued packing in agitation. Suddenly, thick smoke and the smell of burning filled my nostrils. Accompanied by my father's shouts, I rushed outside to see the yard ablaze. Firewood and bags were burning fiercely, and someone outside laughed loudly as my father operated the water pump to draw water from the well. I hurriedly fetched water with a bucket. The intense fire and smoke made it impossible to see, and all I could hear was a buzzing in my ears as I coughed continuously from the smoke, but I didn't dare stop. And after more than 10 minutes, the fire gradually subsided. The attackers stopped throwing incendiary objects, not daring to actually burn the house down, as they would not be able to take anything from the ruins. After the fire was extinguished, I collapsed on the ground, my throat burned raw, every organ in my body screaming, blood surging violently, looking at the devastated yard and my ash-covered parents and my sister, who was crying hysterically. I felt utterly helpless in this apocalyptic world. I didn't know what to do next. I don't know what tricks they still have up their sleeves. This time it nearly cost us our lives. I wonder if we can hold this fortress when the apocalypse strikes again. I admit I was wrong, completely wrong. My past thoughts were naively ridiculous. There's no eternal safety in the apocalypse. Building a shelter doesn't mean we can live peacefully. No one can guard against thieves forever. We must turn passivity into proactivity and resolve this crisis before it escalates. They heard our incessant coughing outside the wall and burst into laughter. "Let's see how long they can last." The leaders shouted at us, "If you don't open the door, we'll set fire every day. How nice it would be if you opened the door for us to coexist peacefully. Think it over and come find me." After saying that, the group gradually moved away, laughing. I choked back my tears, turned around with a bitter smile. "It's all right now, the fire's out. Mom, go inside and comfort your sister. Dad and I will clean up here." Mom wiped her tears and nodded. her shoulders shaking as she walked inside. Dad also had the same look of confusion and helplessness on his face. The pressure on him must be greater than on me at this moment. We checked the yard. The vegetables were mostly burned, the firewood turned to charcoal, and the fish were barely alive. After cleaning up, I went back to the attic. From the attic, I watched them joyfully moving things out of the villagers' houses. Taking inventory, seeing the iron fence stained with the villagers' blood, my resolve hardened. Instead of waiting for them to plunder us, it's better to take the initiative and resolve this crisis beforehand. I made the excuse of being tired and asked Mom to keep watch in the attic for me. I found Dad with a worried frown. Dad, we can't wait any longer. I'm going to cut the fence and let the zombies in to deal with them. Dad shook his head. No, it's too dangerous, and they have guns. You forgot that the zombies here were cleaned up by them and then fenced in. What if there are dozens, or hundreds of them? I'll tear down the fence. We can use firecrackers or speakers to attract the zombies here. No, it's too dangerous. Dad interrupted before I could finish. I looked at him determinedly. Then what, Dad? Think about it. This is the best way. At least zombies won't set fires. Won't. I didn't continue, because I saw the pleading look in the eyes of the little old man who always stood in front of the family. Daughter, you can't go, and neither can I. What if we can't come back? Our family can't bear the pain of losing someone anymore. I looked at him deeply, my eyes filled with pain, and nodded calmly. Okay, I'll go back to sleep. Then I went straight to my room to rest. Now the most important thing is to stay rational and conserve energy. When I opened my eyes again, it was night. The pitch-black night seemed to swallow everything, with only the faint howling of zombies in the distance. I wrapped myself with tape, put on cotton clothes, a mask, and goggles, and quietly left the house with a hydraulic cutter and a fire axe. Dad and I both understood that this was our best way out. Those people, unrestrained by law and devoid of morals, even laughed as they killed. Facing them, we only had death to wait for. They probably didn't expect us to dare to come out. The guards from the self-defense team were already dozing off. I skirted around them and moved slowly through the dark night. The autumn night was slightly chilly, but I was already soaked through my heavy cotton clothes. The dampness made it difficult to breathe, but I tried my best to regulate my breathing to keep my panting low. I followed the wall slowly to the edge of the village and reached the fence, only to find the situation was worse than I had imagined, perhaps due to the noise from putting out the fire and chatting during the day. Several zombies had gathered outside the fence, but they were some distance away from me. After making sure there were no patrols around, I pulled out hydraulic cutters and began to snip through the fence. Snap! Each cut of the wire with the hydraulic cutters made a crisp sound. Hearing this, two nearby zombies slowly started to approach. I had no choice but to soften the noise. As they drew closer, I hurried my actions, using all my strength to cut through the fence as quickly as possible. When I was halfway through, the two zombies were already in front of me. Under the cover of night, I finally saw clearly that one of them was the mother who had lifted a child over her head yesterday. For the first time, I observed these monsters from such a close distance. I could see their mangled limbs, dark veins, and ashy white eyes. They roared at me from the other side of the fence, continuously slamming into it. Their roars gradually attracted more zombies to this area, but I was more afraid of being heard by the defense forces. I took a deep look at the mother, steeled my heart, and shakily raised my firefighter's axe. Just then, someone grabbed my arm. A chill went down my spine, and my back broke out in cold sweat. I swiftly turned the axe around and swung it backward. The person reacted quickly, stepping back just in time to avoid it. When I swung the axe again, I finally saw the face of the newcomer and immediately stopped the force. It was my uncle, the son of Grandpa Air. I widened my eyes, unable to speak, afraid to attract more zombies. I had no idea why he had left home to appear here. He didn't speak either, just soothingly patted my head, took the firefighter's axe from my hands, and turned me around. After several clangs, the zombies' roaring stopped, followed by a couple of thuds. I turned around to see two zombies already down on the ground. Uncle continued cutting the fence with the hydraulic cutters, but more zombies kept approaching. Seeing the gap in the fence widening, I pulled out the spare phone I had prepared earlier, set the alarm, and gestured to my uncle. He understood what I meant, nodded, and whispered in my ear to throw it far. I nodded and started sprinting towards the other side, but before I could throw the spare phone, I had another task to do. I approached the houses where the self-defense forces were staying under the cover of darkness and pulled out 3 glass bottles from my bag, filled with kerosene. I've always been someone who believes in retribution, whether it's being set on fire or bitten by zombies. It was their karma, with force. I threw the 3 kerosene bottles into the courtyard. The crisp sound of glass shattering alerted the guards, who shouted, "Who's there?" I smirked and loudly replied, "Ghosts," without waiting for them to come out. I also threw my lighter in, and the fire blazed up instantly. I listened as they shouted, "Fire, fire." This was the perfect bait for attracting zombies, but a few zombies near my uncle still needed to be diverted. I placed the phone 100 meters away from him and turned on the alarm. Suddenly, in the quiet night, it rang out, "You are the most beautiful cloud in my sky." The zombies near my uncle dashed towards the sound, with more continuously approaching from all around. The distant zombies rushed towards us like a dark cloud, taking advantage of the distraction. My uncle finished cutting through the fence, rose to his feet, and ripped a large opening in it, then shouted at me, "Run." We both sprinted out, fast as arrows, heading towards our homes. Zombies had already entered through the breach and were following our footsteps. I ran with all my might, but the tireless creatures were gaining on me. I abruptly turned towards the fire. As I neared the blazing fire, I finally saw someone outside the alley. It was their leader. He seemed to have just run out from the fire scene, his clothes still not completely extinguished. Seeing me running towards him, he was momentarily stunned. Then yelled, "You wretch," coming right to me. I sprinted past him, leaving behind a single word, "Fool," and disappeared into the alley mouth. Immediately after, his screams echoed through the empty village, shaking off the following zombies. I rushed home, locked the door, and lay in the courtyard, gasping for breath. My parents, already awakened by the noise, looked at the sky filled with fire and the echoing roars and screams. Understanding everything, tears streamed down my mother's face. "How could you be so bold? What would your father and I do if something happened to you?" I wanted to get up and hug them, to comfort them, but I was too exhausted to speak. Lying on the ground, listening to my mother's nagging, I looked up at the bright stars in the sky and managed to utter, "The stars are so bright tonight." Later on, we replanted some vegetables and creatively consumed the dead fish over 3 days until they were all gone. We managed to get in touch with second grandpa using a crossbow that shot messages, only to learn that his family had been hiding in a cellar the whole time, which helped them evade searches by the self-defense forces. At that time, my cousin heard the screams of the villagers but not the sounds of zombies wandering about. Curious to see if there was any food left in the village, he went out and unexpectedly found me cutting through a fence. He even teased me about my lack of strength, joking that I should come work on his farm after the apocalypse to get some real exercise. Luckily, our houses were very close. My cousin, perched on a wall, threw us a pile of firewood, and in exchange, we threw him some food and 2 chickens. Just like that, another season passed. One snowy morning, as usual, I was fiddling with the radio when suddenly a familiar broadcast came through. "Dear citizens, if you can hear this broadcast, it means we have survived the hardest times. A national cleanup operation is now underway, and we aim to completely eradicate the zombies in about a month. Please trust in our nation and our military." Our whole family wept with joy, eagerly awaiting each day in the attic. Finally, after about half a month, a convoy of green military vehicles rolled into our village. Our new life was about to begin, and, after the apocalypse broke out, I went through great lengths to bring my only sister back to our village for refuge. However, my sister blamed me for ruthlessly abandoning our childhood neighbor and close friend, insisting that I take his family back with us to our hometown. Upon my refusal, she harbored a deep resentment against me, taking advantage of my absence while I was out scavenging for supplies. She lured zombies to me and watched as I was devoured by the horde. As I lay dying, I saw my sister standing not far away, her face full of resentment and satisfaction. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day before the apocalypse began. My sister, blushing, pulled on my arm, saying she didn't want to be separated from our childhood friend. I patted her hand. "Then stay here with him, you chase your love. I just want to survive the apocalypse." 01. I never thought that after escaping zombie encirclements and surviving the apocalypse's mutations, I would die at the hands of my most trusted family member. I sat on the sofa, somewhat dazed. The areas where the zombies had bitten me before I died seemed to still throb faintly, constantly reminding me that the scene before my death was no illusion. "Sister, sister," my thoughts were interrupted by the calls. Bella shook my arm discontentedly. "Why have you suddenly stopped talking?" I said, "I don't want to go back to our hometown." Looking at Bella's smiling face, I felt a wave of nausea. When I was 17, our parents died in a car accident. Before they died, they entrusted me with taking care of my sister. At that time, she was 15 and in junior high. I studied and worked part-time, eating only two 50-cent buns from the cafeteria each day. To save money, I seldom even bought pickled vegetables, but I never skimped on anything for her. When she said her classmates were drinking milk and she wanted some too, I saved up to buy her a whole box. When she complained about the cafeteria food, I squeezed time each week to cook and bring her meals for a change of taste. I never complained, because I felt she was the only family I had left in this world. In my previous life, I was more vigilant. I sensed something was off as soon as the signs started appearing online. I bought some supplies overnight and hid in our rural home. At that time, Bella was in her rebellious teenage years, secretly fond of the unruly Mark. She insisted on bringing Mark and his family along, looking at Mark's large, intimidating parents and brother. I decisively refused. In the apocalypse, human nature is unpredictable, and I had to be fully alert to protect the two of us, but I never expected that because of this, Bella would come to hate me. I still vividly remember the cruel and resentful look on her face as she pushed me towards the zombie horde. You forced me to study and do things I didn't like for years in the name of what's best for me, and I endured it. But you shouldn't have caused Mark and his family to die miserably just because Mark didn't like you. If it weren't for your meddling, Mark and I would never have separated, and he wouldn't have died. Today, I finally avenged my lover. The indifferent figure from my memories overlapped with the resentful girl before me now. I already told you I don't want to go back to our hometown. Why are you forcing me? I paused for a moment, remembering this day. This was the day before the apocalypse broke out. From the information online and the abnormalities around me, I sensed something was wrong and wanted to take Bella back to our hometown for safety, but she absolutely refused to leave. In my previous life, to make her listen, I shared my suspicions with her, but she turned around, told Mark, and insisted that I bring Mark and his family along. She even personally led to my death for the sake of that delinquent. This time, looking at the girl before me, I clenched my teeth and patted her hand. Fine, if you don't want to go back, then stay here with Mark. Bella didn't expect the usually strict me to agree so readily. She looked at me suspiciously. Don't go back on your word. I looked firmly at the sister I had doted on for nearly a decade, my tone resolute. Absolutely not. 02. Receiving my response, Bella happily sat at the table, applying makeup to meet her beloved. Meanwhile, I took out my phone and booked a car, preparing to go to the market and supermarket to buy supplies. In my last life, pacifying Bella took up too much time, leaving me little to gather what we needed. In the end, I could only hurriedly buy a small amount of food before rushing back to my hometown. This time, I had a whole day to prepare supplies. With the experience from my previous life, I was able to avoid many unnecessary detours. The car arrived quickly, as I was putting on my shoes. Bella was busy applying false eyelashes. Without turning her head, she instructed me as I headed out, "Don't bother cooking tonight. I won't be eating at home." I didn't respond to her and just left the house. The sun in the northern winter seemed merely decorative. Even though I was wrapped tightly in my coat, I still shivered from the cold. The car was parked by the roadside. As soon as I got in, a wave of warmth hit me. The heating, combined with the enclosed space, was a nightmare for anyone prone to motion sickness. I closed my eyes, leaned back in the seat, and suppressed the nausea as I recalled the scenes after the apocalypse broke out in my last life. I remembered it clearly. The day after I took Bella back to the village, at 9 in the morning, a video suddenly went viral online. It showed someone falling from the 5th floor of the Oya Mall. Despite the fall, the person got up and, with a face mangled beyond recognition, lunged at the nearest customer. The video was quickly taken down, but the situation worsened. Even the small town near our village began to report cases of cannibalistic zombies. Later, the virus spread not just among humans but also affected animals. Lost in thought, I didn't notice that the car had already reached its destination, the market. I needed to buy a large quantity of supplies, and the market offered better deals than the supermarket. I took a tour around and targeted a truck full of cabbages and potatoes at the edge of the market. After negotiating a good price with the vendor, I continued to another stall. Eventually, I bought half a truckload of carrots, some grains, oil, and other high-calorie foods. After paying a little extra, the vendor agreed to deliver them to my hometown. I was cautious and didn't reveal the exact location of my hometown. Instead, I had them deliver my purchases to a slope near my hometown. where I planned to move them myself after dark. After securing the food, I bought many other items, including dozens of blankets and several military coats and cotton trousers. Given my limited funds and time, these were the best provisions I could manage. In my previous life, Bella was spoiled and bought many unnecessary things while I wasn't paying attention. By the time we needed to buy these essentials, we were already low on money. This time, without her, things went much smoother. When I boarded the bus back to the village at 10 p.m., it was already dark outside. Bella had posted a new update on her social circle. The photo showed her and a man from the waist up, with a background of a cheap motel that charged by the night. On the table, there was an empty bowl of spicy noodles and 2 pairs of chopsticks. The caption read, "True love is invincible." I found it laughable. After our parents died, I never denied her anything she wanted. I tried to fulfill every desire, but in the end, she only resented me for being strict. She went to a motel with that man and even caused my death for him. I took a deep breath and liked her post. Upon refreshing, the post was gone. It seemed she had forgotten to block me. As the bus shook more and more, I got closer to my hometown. A 3-hour bus ride was neither too close nor too far, but it was enough to distance me from the densely populated city. Without a car, I had to climb a mountain for half an hour after getting off the bus. By the time I reached my front door, panting and pulling out the keys, it was already midnight. There were no streetlights in the countryside, only the faint moonlight on the ground. I looked at the messy yard and felt a sense of solidity. The goods I had purchased were piled up on the small slope above my house. People in the countryside go to bed early, so by the time the goods were delivered, it was already late at night, and I wasn't worried about attracting too much attention. The clothes and bedding were not heavy, but items like potatoes posed a challenge. After a great deal of effort, I managed to drag down clothes, bedding, and food staples like rice and oil to the bottom of the slope and piled them up in the courtyard, wiping the sweat from my forehead. I glanced at the sky, which was starting to lighten, and hastily covered the food still on the slope with some materials I found, then set about tidying up the yard. For the moment, I put aside concerns about hygiene. The most important thing was safety. Thankfully, the walls of my house were high, and the iron gate was sturdy, having been replaced by my parents when they were alive. I had also installed burglar-proof bars on the windows, following methods I learned online. I placed a row of hose and iron rakes upright against the base of the wall to deter anyone from climbing over. I also scattered a few circles of broken glass and small blades around. Time was tight, and my options were limited. This was the best I could come up with for now. As the day grew brighter and the sun began to show, I sat on the steps and pulled out my phone to check the time, 8:57 a.m., within a few minutes. The same kind of disturbing videos that had surfaced in my past life began appearing online. The chaos and panic spread rapidly through the internet. Half an hour later, the air raid sirens went off. Amidst the blaring sirens, I ignored a call from Bella. The apocalypse had arrived as expected, even though I had already experienced this once in a previous life. The sharp, piercing sound of the alarms still made my heart skip. In my previous life, it was after these alarms that everything I knew had shattered into fragments. I wiped the sweat from my face with a trembling hand and clicked on the first news alert pushed by WB, #no, for middle school overrun hashtag. At the top of this hashtag was a video with a frightening number of likes and comments. I managed to watch it before it was deleted. The video was pitch black for the first few seconds, but at the 7th second, a face full of terror appeared on the screen. I don't know what's happening. The man filming was middle-aged and seemed to be running, his voice clear despite the shaky footage. I was teaching a math class, and a student at the back had been laying his head down for almost the entire period. I was worried he might be sick, so I went to check on him. His face contorted for a moment as the footage shook even more. I regret it so much. Why did I go over to him? Half his face was gone. Just gone. His eyes widened in terror. His face was covered in blood, his eyes dangling out of their sockets, but he could still speak. He said, "Teacher, it hurts so much. I shouldn't have asked him, I shouldn't have, or he wouldn't have bitten me." I watched as the teacher's eyes in the video began to change. Dark red veins spread quickly across his eyeballs. "I haven't finished paying off my mortgage. My son hasn't been let out of school yet. My wife has made dinner and is waiting for me to come home. Why bite me? Why me?" With a scream, the teacher dropped his phone and lunged at a fleeing student nearby. I couldn't see what happened next, only heard screams echoing through the school building. I closed my eyes for a moment and took a deep breath before continuing to scroll through various news reports and posts from netizens. No one knew exactly who first noticed something was amiss. It seemed as though suddenly, no, for middle school had been overrun by mutants. The unprepared school quickly fell. And before any help could arrive, most of the students and teachers had turned into zombies. I recall seeing news like this in my previous life too, but back then, I was too preoccupied with calming an emotional Bella to pay much attention. Now, after scrolling through dozens of posts, I noticed something odd. I distinctly remembered that the zombies I encountered before my death were not only incredibly strong but also alarmingly fast. However, based on the video I just watched, the zombies at this school aren't very fast. This can only mean that the zombies are evolving, and at an alarming rate. This is not good news. I rubbed my eyes and lit up the screen, ready to continue checking the news online. Suddenly, the screen dimmed for a moment. A call came in. It was Bella. As I looked at the flickering screen, I pressed the answer button. Bella, why aren't you answering your phone? Bella's slightly complaining voice came from the other end. Don't come home these next few days. Mark's neighborhood is sealed off, and they can't get back, so I let Mark's family stay at our place. Who knows what's happened now? She muttered under her breath, then fell silent. The other end of the phone was noisy, with countless shouting voices mingling together. One shrill female voice particularly prominent. Oh, it's better for you to stay out. It's dangerous for a young girl like you to come home alone. Haven't you seen the news lately? Listen to me, stay outside. She sounded so righteous, as if she was genuinely considering my safety, which I found ridiculous. Any sane person would know it's unsafe outside and would rush home. Only she could come up with such an excuse. Hearing my response, Mark's mother paused on the phone, seemingly surprised by my retort. Before she could say anything, Bella couldn't hold back. What do you mean? Natalie, can't you speak properly? Don't you have any manners? Talking like this in front of an elder, Mom would be furious if she were alive. I didn't respond further and hung up the phone. Time was pressing, and I didn't have the time to argue with them. Besides, I had just installed surveillance at home a few weeks ago. Monitoring their movements was easy. Thinking this, I opened the surveillance app on my phone. The figures of Bella and her group appeared on the screen in the living room. Mark's family sat on the sofa, while Bella crouched next to Mark's mother, apologizing and peeling an apple for her. She looked obedient and sensible, a side of her I had never seen before. I put down the phone and swept the yard, which I hadn't had the chance to clean earlier. Then, I grabbed about a dozen bags and went to the back hill to sort and pack things like potatoes that I hadn't had time to bring into the yard. But, my strength and energy alone were limited. After dragging the packed food to the yard 4 or 5 times, most of the day had passed. After stacking the 5th bag of potatoes in the coolest annex, I took a moment to check my phone. It was 6:50 p.m., and the sun was about to disappear behind the mountains. Rubbing my sore neck, I went back to the hillside to hide the last few bags of food in a nearby pit. The temperature difference between day and night in the north is significant, and it became bitterly cold as soon as the sun set. I stood on the slope, wrapped tightly in my coat, still feeling the chill penetrating my bones. After lightly stepping on the food-buried pit and covering it with some nearby dead branches and leaves for camouflage, I hurried home, my neck shrunken from the cold, tired from the day's work. I had no energy left to prepare dinner, so I baked 2 potatoes in the stove for my meal. The baked potatoes were very soft and uniquely sweet. After eating 2, I couldn't resist and baked a smaller one. Fortunately, the countryside doesn't lack for firewood, and there were also 3 bags of coal left over from last New Year at home. If used sparingly, it should be enough to get through the winter. After eating and drinking, I sat on a stool, planning to go to my grandfather's old house later to find something very important, a hunting rifle and a few bullets. I had found these last time I searched the house for usable supplies. The hunting rifle is very old and could easily cause injury if not handled carefully, but its deterrent power is not to be underestimated, especially since in this apocalypse, you have to guard against both zombies and people. Night fell quickly. I dared not turn on the lights and could only use the faint glow from the stove to browse on my phone. The video I initially watched had disappeared, and I couldn't find any follow-up reports about the high school on my phone. Instead, there were numerous posts about horrifying incidents occurring around the school area. The internet was awash with chaotic videos and discussions. After the alarm sounded, those who sensed something wrong early had already cleared out the supermarkets and markets. Those slightly less alert had locked themselves indoors. The entire city was plunged into an unprecedented panic. I wiped my face and took a sip of water from the cup beside me. This was just the beginning. In my past life, Not long after the incident at the high school, many people suddenly began to cough and develop fevers. The symptoms were similar to a mild cold, and, concerned with the external situation, no one paid much attention to these changes, until these people suddenly mutated. They screamed and lunged at their unsuspecting family and friends. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. This was the real hell on earth. After watching the news, I glanced over at the surveillance footage. In front of me, Bella, who couldn't even cook instant noodles, was happily preparing a meal for Mark's family. Mark's mother, wearing my face mask, contentedly watched TV in the living room, while Mark was cutting oranges for his brother with a fruit knife. Bella called out from the kitchen 3 or 4 times, but the people in the living room pretended not to hear. Only when Bella had set the plates on the table did they come over with laughter, claiming they hadn't heard her. I found it amusing but didn't forget what was important. As the time on the top left corner of my phone approached 11 o'clock, I grew increasingly nervous. In my past life, this was the time when a small wave of zombies erupted in the village. It was my first encounter with the zombies. I gripped my phone tightly, watching the 59 change to 2000. The next second, screams mixed with cries erupted in the village. Someone had turned into a zombie. The rural night was exceptionally quiet, making the screams particularly sharp and startling. A dog, frightened by the noise, barked incessantly. The commotion was so loud that many people woke up. From the window, I saw lights turn on not far away, and I could vaguely make out the gathering crowd. It was the same in my past life. The first to mutate was Aunt Wang's grandson, Wang Ji, who was studying in the city. A few days ago, Wang Ji suddenly fell ill, coughing during the day and feverish at night, showing no signs of improvement for days. That night, before going to bed, Wang Ji suddenly felt very energetic and stopped having a fever, merely saying he was hungry. Aunt Wang was overjoyed, thinking her grandson was finally recovering from the cold. But in the middle of the night, Aunt Wang was awakened by a noise beside her. Turning on the light, she discovered her husband had been bitten to death by her grandson. The earlier screams had come from Aunt Wang. I closed my eyes and continued to recall the past. Back then, upon hearing the screams, many people rushed to help at Aunt Wang's house, not expecting that none would leave the Wang's residence alive. Unprepared, they became the first meal for the mutated Wang family. Bella was terrified by the screams, crying until the early hours. I was busy comforting her and didn't notice a zombie had approached our window. Turning around, I saw a half of a crimson, distorted face pressed against the glass, and the vague figure of a body behind it. Even through the glass, I could smell the pungent stench of decay and blood. It was our first time witnessing such a scene, and we froze in shock. Bella screamed in fright. If it weren't for the fool who followed the zombie and tackled it, giving us time, we might have died that night. Remembering this, I opened my eyes and checked my phone, estimating it was about time. I moved to the room next door on the same side, opened the window, wrapped cardboard around various parts of my body as makeshift armor, and moved the axe next to the door to my feet. After waiting about 10 minutes, a familiar scent of blood wafted over. I stared at the window and gripped the axe tightly. Finally, they arrived. As the zombie shuffled its feet, groaning, "Ha, ha," and approached the window, I intentionally kicked the corner of the wall. The zombie, as expected, was drawn by the noise and turned its head toward the window. I didn't turn on the lights, leaving the room shrouded in darkness. With the window I had preemptively opened, a zombie outside could not see clearly and thrust its upper body inside. I struck down fiercely. By the moonlight, I saw that I had hacked into the zombie's neck. Horrifyingly, even with its neck half severed, it was still struggling, determined. I raised my axe again, and with one swift motion, the zombie's head fell to the ground. It moved no more. The stench of decay almost became tangible, filling the entire room. Strangely, there was hardly any blood. I picked up an old sheet I had prepared earlier, wiped the few drops of blood from the floor, then wrapped the zombie's head in it and threw it out the window. It was easier than I had expected. Just then, a figure suddenly appeared outside the window. 08. The person outside peeked in. "I'm Ryan, are you Natalie?" I instantly breathed a sigh of relief. Ryan was the fool who died trying to save us from the zombies in our past life. He had a fever as a child that damaged his brain, leaving him with the mental capacity of a 6 or 7-year-old. His parents, embarrassed by their child, abandoned him because he made them lose face. Ryan grew up on the charity of the villagers. As a child, whenever he was bullied, I was the only one who protected him. So he grew particularly dependent on me. "Can I come in? I haven't seen you for so long." I saw a car driving near your house, so I've been waiting here for you, Ryan asked cautiously from outside the window. Come through the door. Seeing Ryan pushing the corpse aside to climb through the window, I stopped him, holding the axe. I opened the gate of the yard, and Ryan rushed in to embrace me, happily asking why it took me so long to come back. I pulled him in, closed the door, and sat down by the stove to roast a potato for him. Only then did I notice my phone screen was lit up. It was Bella calling again. I had to laugh. In our past life, when I treated her like a dearly beloved sister, she wished never to see me again. Now that I've stopped paying her attention, she's trying to get close to me. After picking up, Bella sounded awkward. Hey, come home. I saw the news and online messages today. It seems really unstable outside. You don't even have a place to stay. Just come back. I didn't respond. After a moment, a male voice came through the phone. Natalie, don't be stubborn. I'm apologizing on behalf of my mom. Her intentions were good. She just doesn't express herself well. Don't hold a grudge against everyone. We all care about you. Bella misses you too. Please come back. I chuckled. What does that have to do with me? And who are you? Besides, it's dangerous outside. How can I come back? There was a pause on the other end. If I'm telling you to come back, just come. Do you want me to starve to death? Don't forget what Mom and Dad told you. Is this how you take care of me? Bella's voice grew annoyed. I already told you to come back. What more do you want? Also, bring some supplies when you come back, like food and water. Hurry up. The call ended abruptly. In the past, Bella's attitude would have angered me, but now I just found it ridiculous. The disadvantages of a crowded urban area hadn't fully manifested yet. In a few days, when the people trapped at home run out of their scant food supplies, real despair will begin to emerge. Bella never cared about stocking up on household supplies, and I wasn't in the habit of hoarding food either. The food in the fridge would last us maybe 2 or 3 days at most. Now that Bella had brought Mark's family to stay at my place, the food was probably almost gone. No wonder she was calling me now. I wanted to see, in these critical moments of life and death, what would become of Bella and the love she cherished so deeply. 09. The number of zombies in the village wasn't too high, making them relatively easy to deal with. Most of the village's inhabitants were elderly or children, despite their years of hard labor and immense strength. With my past life experience of facing zombies, we finished off all the zombies just as dawn was breaking. A few children, around 14 or 15 years old, stood around me with faces smeared with tears and snot, helping me throw the last zombie into a ravine. One of the kids, who cried the hardest, said that the zombie was his grandmother. I patted his head, unable to say anything. In my previous life, Bella and I survived so long because of the villagers' help. This life, I felt I should do something for them too. Dealing with this small wave of zombies was a minor issue. The real task was to set up proper defenses for the future. Perhaps seeing me handle the zombies made the village children somewhat reliant on me. When I mentioned strengthening the village entrance, they all raised their hands, eager to help. I directed them to move rocks from the mountain to pile up at the entrance, building a barrier about 3 to 4 meters high. We also broke many branches of prickly ash trees and laid them in front of the stone wall. A simple barricade was thus completed. Next to the barricade, there was a small path. We arranged for people to patrol this path and to sound a gong at any sign of trouble, allowing us to be prepared. By the afternoon, all these preparations were done. Having stayed up all night and under stress for so long, I was utterly exhausted. I found a mound of earth, sat down, and fell asleep. This way of life continued for several days until we, the survivors in the village, completed the basic defenses around the village. The rural habit of stockpiling vegetables, especially potatoes, meant there was no immediate concern for food. After sorting everything out, I finally had time to go home and rest. I had been too busy to check my phone in these past days. Only then did I discover many missed calls and WeChat messages, all from Bella. I scrolled through them, amused. The messages started with angry rants, gradually turning into pleas and softening, and finally, she even said she was willing to give up Mark. I nearly laughed out loud at that message. Why did Bella still think I was stopping her from being with Mark because I liked him too? Just then, Bella called again. It had been days since I answered a call, fearing she might suspect something and come to my hometown, so I decided to answer. As soon as I picked up, Bella started crying, accusing me of not honoring our parents' wishes, recognizing her mistakes, and asking for my forgiveness. Near the end of the call, with a sobbing voice, Bella asked, "Sis, where are you now? You didn't go back to our hometown alone, did you? You can't just leave me. Think how heartbroken our parents would be. We're real sisters, after all. My heart turned cold. Why didn't she remember we were real sisters when she was harming me in my past life? Her words now starkly contradicted her usual behavior, making me curious about what had happened. So, while I listened to her lament on speakerphone, I opened the surveillance software. In the footage, Bella was sitting in the living room, surrounded by Mark's family. Contrary to her remorseful words on the phone, her face in the video was twisted in malice, each word bitten off with vehemence. I responded casually to her, offering a few words of comfort before hanging up. Bella's expression distorted as she held the disconnected phone. Mark's family, seeing this, crowded closer. Bella, what did your sister say? Bella forced a smile. My sister said she'll be back soon. I'm her dear sister. How could she possibly neglect me? Mark and his mother exchanged glances, then comfortingly placed an arm around Bella's shoulders. Bella, we know you're the best. My mom didn't really mean to pressure you. You know our situation. We're running low on food. We don't mind. But we can't let you suffer with us, Mark said, as Bella tearfully grasped his hand. Don't worry, I'll find a way to get Natalie to bring back supplies. I'm her sister, and she adores me too much to ignore my needs. Didn't Chen Air downstairs also mention that we could trade women for supplies? If she can't bring back what we need, we can just trade her instead. I listened to Bella's words with a sneer. Once again lamenting my poor judgment in my past life for having raised such a heartless creature. By now, I had been hiding in the village for almost a week. A week was enough for the outside world to turn upside down. I slowly browsed through various news websites and chat apps on my phone. The zombie situation was not only not improving, but it was also getting worse. Dozens of cities had been completely sealed off. No one knew what was happening inside these cities. Horrific scenes unfolded daily in different places, mirroring those from zombie movies now happening in the real world. Some even live-streamed on how to become a zombie painlessly. The live stream had long ended, and now only a few videos circulated online. In the videos, the host, having witnessed his child and parents brutally killed by his zombie wife, couldn't stand the fear anymore and started the live stream saying he also wanted to become a zombie. He bit into the severed arm of his zombified son, his face filled with despair. Many, fearing the pain of being mauled by zombies, thought becoming one painlessly was a good idea. But minutes later, as the host writhed in agony on the ground, screaming and tearing at his own skin, everyone realized it was a foolish method. The zombie virus inflicted immense pain as it ravaged the human body. There was no pain-free way to turn into a zombie, I sighed. Thankful that the situation in the village was still manageable. The village was not only barricaded, but also patrolled day and night. The villagers, like in my past life, treated me well and consulted me when issues arose. Concerned about my firewood supply, they even delivered some to me. Ryan also stayed by my side all the time, insisting on protecting me. As dawn barely broke, my phone rang again. I had been exhausted these past few days, so I turned off the phone, rolled over, and continued to sleep. When I woke up and turned on my phone, I found many messages from Bella. Without exception, they were all insults. She accused me of being unfilial, not respecting our parents' last wishes. She said I was controlling and trying to manipulate her life, even seducing her boyfriend. She listed all these accusations and concluded by saying that I did not deserve to be her sister, and that our parents would not want to acknowledge me. I was baffled by her sudden outburst. At the bottom of the messages was a video. Opening the video, I understood her scheme. The first words in the video were, "Bella, you don't deserve to be my sister, nor our parents' daughter. Get out of the house. This house, although left to both of us by our parents, has nothing to do with you anymore since you've been abusing me against our parents' wishes." Mark, hugging Bella, chimed in, "Natalie, I know what you're thinking, but I only love Bella. She's the only one in my heart." I laughed out loud. The house was surrounded by zombies, and the corridors were littered with severed limbs. I wouldn't want it even if it were offered to me. Moreover, after seeing how coldly Mark's family treated Bella yesterday, and how they fawned over her today once they heard the house was hers, it was clear they were opportunistic. Only Bella couldn't see it, still treating Mark like a treasure. Still, I was curious. The situation in the city had been bleak these past few days, which was probably why Bella had called me yesterday saying those things, but it hadn't been long, and her attitude had changed so drastically. I found it suspicious and turned on the surveillance footage again. Bella, holding a turned-off phone, casually directed Mark to bring a few bundles of green onions and a small bag of potatoes from the doorway into the kitchen. Listening to their conversation, I learned that this morning, Mark's mother had found these 2 bags suddenly appearing at the doorstep. They believed them to be emergency supplies distributed by the officials. They joyfully brought the items into the house. Bella and Mark figured that since the government was distributing supplies now, they would likely continue to do so in the future. There was no need to keep asking me to bring supplies back home. That explained the news this morning. But I remembered clearly. In my previous life, there was no such distribution of supplies. What was going on with these items? I stared at the screen showing a bag of green onions. The more I looked, the stranger it seemed. The bag was small, narrow and long, different from usual bags. I paused the video and zoomed in on the text on the bag. Logan's Breakfast appeared on the screen. That was the name of the breakfast shop below my apartment. These items weren't government-distributed supplies, but rather someone was using this method to probe if anyone was around. I closed my eyes and shut off the video. I never underestimated the malevolence of human nature. With the collapse of order in the apocalypse, the unrestrained evil only grew worse. In my previous life, Bella was protected by me and never had to face these situations directly. I just didn't know if she would find a way to survive in this life. 12. The village's defenses were essentially in place, and I finally had some free time. After a physical workout and sending off several elderly ladies who had brought me lunch and dinner, it was nearly dark. I had planned to lie in bed and browse my phone for a while, but I realized there was no internet connection. It was the same in my previous life. After the zombie crisis broke out in full force, the internet would intermittently fail. Most of the time, there was no network at all. Fortunately, having experienced this in my previous life, I was prepared. I had downloaded a large number of survival videos and survival movies on my computer and tablet. They provided entertainment while also teaching survival skills. I lay on the bed and randomly picked a movie to watch. Recently, the weather had turned cold abruptly, and in the evening, snowflakes even began to drift from the sky. I propped my head and glanced outside. The snow outside was getting heavier, and the sky looked as if it was filled with swan feathers, making the mountains beyond the courtyard walls barely visible. I snuggled deeper into my blanket, feeling the warmth inside the house, and was immensely grateful for having prepared enough firewood. The movie was somewhat dull, but the room was sufficiently warm. I just lay there on the bed, unaware of when I fell asleep. I was awakened by an alarm sound coming from my phone. I opened my eyes wide to see that the phone had regained network connection at some point and was displaying a surveillance video page. The alarm was coming from there. Someone was trying to pry open the door. I immediately thought of the 2 small bags of food Bella and Mark had received that morning. Indeed, those people had come. Hearing the alarm, Bella and Mark came out of my bedroom with cautious expressions. The person outside was clearly startled by the alarm and stopped moving. Bella mustered her courage and shouted, "Who's out there?" There was silence outside for a moment. Then, a simple and apologetic voice responded, "Big sister, it's me. I was the one who distributed supplies to you this morning." Hearing this, Bella relaxed a bit, but Mark still glared and asked, "You've already given us the supplies. What are you doing here now?" The voice outside continued, "Well, you know the situation outside, right? I signed up as a volunteer. They're pushing us hard to distribute supplies, and we have to work even at night. After distributing supplies to you this morning, we realized we're running out of bags, so I came back to collect them. I've almost finished collecting from this floor, and you're the last ones. Big sister, could you please hand the bag out to me? There are others who need it." Bella rolled her eyes. "What does that have to do with me?" The person outside persisted. "Big sister, that's not very kind of you. We should be helping each other more now. If you act like this, we might not give you supplies next time." Hearing this, Bella cursed under her breath, then reluctantly went to fetch the bag. "You're so poor yet you try to volunteer like others. It's surprising you even started a breakfast shop, always asking us for bags." Holding a bag and walking to the door, Mark suddenly raised his hand to stop Bella and shouted through the peephole, "Stand back further, away from the door, even further." After scoffing a few times, he raised an eyebrow at Bella and whispered, "Where has all your education gone? You have no sense of crisis. This is the right way to do things." I snickered. These 2 are cut from the same cloth. Someone came to break in at dawn, and after a simple explanation, they believed them and even opened the door, completely lacking common sense. Truly security-conscious people wouldn't pay attention to outsiders until they received official notification, as expected. Just as Bella slightly opened the door to throw out the bag, a sudden force from outside slammed into it, nearly throwing them out. The first to enter was Logan, who had been talking with Bella for a while. Logan slowly entered, rubbing his hands, followed by several burly men. These were his brothers, relatives, and helpers from the diner. After the zombie outbreak, there were many groups that used their numbers to loot resources. Logan walked into the living room with a smile and gestured for his men to close the door. Girl, your mouth is too foul, lacking the most basic manners. I guess I need to teach you a lesson on behalf of your parents. Bella screamed loudly, pushing Mark forward to protect her. Unexpectedly, Mark grabbed Bella's arm, flung it aside, and stepped forward to shake hands with Logan in a pleasing manner. Bella was so shocked she stopped screaming and just stood there with her mouth agape. The video paused for a few seconds and then disappeared. I fiddled with it a bit, only to realize the internet was down again. Bella and Mark's family, now in the hands of these people, were bound to meet a grim fate. But what does that have to do with me? The fact that I didn't personally harm Bella and the others meant I was still kind. I tossed my phone aside, no longer caring about these matters. The snow outside continued to fall. I turned over, wrapped myself in the blanket, and continued to sleep. The snow lasted for 3 days. It killed 2 chickens raised in the village. Someone took the frozen chickens home to make firewood chicken, delivering a bowl to each of the surviving families in the village. I received a small pot myself. The rich aroma filled the warm cabin, and the tender, flavorful potatoes almost melted my tongue. On the 5th day, the snow outside finally stopped. The heavy snow had blocked the roads, preventing vehicles from entering, making us even safer. Standing at the entrance of the village with a shotgun, wearing a thick military coat and a hat, I looked out at the distant road and spotted several figures. I rang the alarm bell, putting the entire village on alert. There were about 11 or 12 people approaching on foot. As they drew closer, I could see that at the forefront was Bella, shivering in her scant clothing. Behind her were Mark and a group of Logan's thugs. Cuddling up next to Logan, watching the bird-like, dependent Mark, I couldn't help but laugh. Bella, spotting me standing on high, began jumping and shouting excitedly, "Sister, sister, save me, save me." Then, she was kicked to the ground by Mark from behind. "Natalie, if you want Bella to live, let us in, or else." Mark didn't finish his sentence, just glared at me menacingly, then kicked Bella again. "Or else what?" Logan spoke with a smile. "Big sister, otherwise. Don't blame us for getting rough." He gestured towards the people behind him wielding iron rods, wooden sticks, and kitchen knives. I slowly pulled out the shotgun hidden under my military coat, aimed at Logan, and fired. The gun wasn't very powerful, but it was effective at close range. However, my aim was off, hitting only Logan's side. The group immediately quieted down. Bella cheered. She got up from the ground and yelled towards me, "Sister, sister, save me." I aimed the gun at her. "You too. Get out." Bella paused for a few seconds, still wanting to say something, but was hit on the shoulder by a stone. I turned to see it was Ryan, and the others stood behind me, faces full of anger. Seeing Bella not moving, he picked up another stone and threw it. Bella, frightened, retreated, leaning on Mark. Logan also raised his hand to signal his willingness to go. As they turned around, I signaled to the people behind me to get ready. Sure enough, after walking only a few steps, these people turned around, clutching weapons and charged at us. They seemed to be prepared. Some stood in the distance, throwing knives and other weapons at us, while others took advantage of the chaos to sneak under the roadblocks, preparing to climb the stone wall. In this apocalyptic world, these people had long lost their humanity, so I felt no remorse. I signaled to the people behind me to take out the oil drums we had prepared and pour the oil down on those below. The people were caught off guard, and I quickly threw down the torches we had prepared. Screams erupted from below the stone wall. Several people, engulfed in flames, ran screaming towards the others behind them. "Roll on the snow on the ground," someone shouted, but those on fire had already forgotten this advice in their panic, screaming as they rushed towards those not yet aflame, dragging them along to the cliff next to the path. Logan watched this scene in shock, glanced at me, and signaled for Mark to help him walk away. However, Mark kicked Logan's wound and restrained Bella. "You old beast, you killed my parents, and you expect me to save you? Dream on, Natalie, she's your own sister. How could you be so ruthless? I know there are no zombies in your village. Just let me in, and I'll release her," Mark said. Seeing that I didn't respond, Bella closed her eyes in despair. then suddenly lifted her head to hit Mark's chin and jumped off the cliff with him. Mark's unspoken curse turned into a scream, disappearing by the side of the path. 14. The snow began to fall again on the mountain. Ryan squatted beside me and handed me a sweet potato. Natalie, don't be sad, he said. I shook my head. I wasn't sad. I was clear in my mind. How could Logan and Mark have found this place, other than Bella leading them here? There was no other possibility. I could even imagine Bella, gritting her teeth as she spoke of me, trying to gain favor with Logan. And then leading them here. Her final act was merely out of a broken heart, not expecting that the man she loved didn't love her back, but was submitting to another man. I chuckled softly. In this life, it was I who survived. I took the sweet potato from Ryan's hand, walking outside towards those waiting to discuss the construction of the village with me. I had more important things to do, facing the people. I unfolded the blueprints. I have an idea, I began. We can turn this place into a simple fortress base.